that's why it's really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this DJ?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
When really, at the end of the day, it's just the matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, welcome to this here episode number 91 of the DGen Roundtable. Are we going to get $120,000 Bitcoin while we're motherfucking live on stream? That would be pretty fucking cool. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. If you've never seen us before, my name is Will Stevenson. I'm a traveling iron worker who talks crypto in his free time. I'm joined tonight by our fantastic Mr. Brendan the Anonymous Bean. He is the DGen Roundtable's macroeconomic specialist, and we're also joined by Mr. Zenith DI. He is our government and legal analyst and budding aficionado and fan of the what's it called that Chuck runs? I'll ask you for the name when I get over to you. But welcome,
Law School,
gentlemen. Pulse Chain Law School. That's the one.
There you go.
Welcome, gentlemen. I always brain fart when I'm in the middle of introducing people, and I forget literally everything you guys do. So welcome, broskies. Good to see you. Zenith is glad to have you back on a Sunday show. It's fucking awesome to have you, broski. Gentlemen, what's new and exciting with you? Zenith, what's up, bro?
Not much, just doing the usual, keeping track of the markets and everything going on. We got a big week next week coming up, so there's going to be a lot of news coming out. The rest of July is honestly going to be pretty hot because we got Crypto Week for Congress next week, which we're going to get into a little bit on the show tonight. And then also there's been speculation. It's entirely unconfirmed, but there's speculation that Jerome Powell might be resigning over at the Federal Reserve. And then lastly, we do have the official federal rates decision at the end of the month. So keep your eyes open. This is going to be a big month, especially considering that the Bitcoin markets have been going pretty haywire and we are not even halfway through a 60-day cycle yet. So outside of that, though, yeah. I'm just chilling over here, playing some golf, building some bookshelves, doing what I do.
Very good. Ooh, Agent J would be proud of the bookshelves that you're building. You'll have to show him some pictures of that stuff. But before we get into that, Brendan Broski, aloha, amigo. What's new and exciting with you?
Aloha, Mr. Will, Zenith. Great to have you back, brother. Missed you. Not too much new. My voice is a little raspy today. I apologize. Went out on the town last night with the boys. And moving out of Miami, so one of the last times I'll be out, and we did it upright. We started at our local Irish pub, and then we went to this new karaoke spot in Wynwood, which one of my favorite bartenders works there. Just got moved from the same bar, another bar that the same owners own. He came to my wedding, so we're super tight, and so we bounced there. We were there 2 a.m. And then we went to Mama Tribe, which is this dive bar, and the line was around the corner. I'm telling you, it was probably an hour wait for line. I'm like, I don't wait in lines. So I hand the bouncer $100 and 7 of us walk in.
Damn right, dude. I can confirm this. Brendan does not wait in lines, and he doesn't always hand people money, bro. When we were roaming around that fucking part of Miami, I don't know if it was Brickell or where it was, but Brendan was literally like, yo, what's up, bro? What's up, bro? And all these guys were beckoning us into all the clubs and all the everything. It was super cool. So Brendan is the Miami man. I'm sad to see you leave Miami, broski, but I'm happy that you're moving on to bigger and better things. But you've got one hell of a network down there, dude. So that's kick ass.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. What's funny is I don't even go out in that much. It's not my regular thing, but I'm just nice to people. And I think that goes a long way, especially in a city that kind of lacks character and lacks honesty. So maybe it stands out in this city in particular, and maybe some others. But nonetheless, so my voice a little raspy from singing all night and staying out way later than I needed to be out. Other than that, things are good, man. Job's going well, and the markets this week have been nothing but a pleasant sight for my eyes. Well, unless of course you're looking at the Pulse chain ecosystem, but we won't talk about it.
Yes. Yeah. Where the fuck is my pulse, man?
But we will also be talking about the midnight airdrop, which I think is something that people are overlooking and not paying attention to. Probably because a lot of people don't pay attention to Cardano. But the cool thing about the airdrop is it's not just for ADA holders; it's also for other holders of other chains, and we'll get into that a bit later. So super important. And I kind of like the way that they're launching this airdrop. All tokens will be airdropped, so it's not like VC. It's seemed pretty fair to me. So it's cool.
Hell yeah, man. Well, it's going to be a good fucking night. I love to see it. And before we get too far into the night, we're going to do a quick round. I see that we've got 11 folks watching, so shout out to all you guys, 11 folks out there. Let's see. If I do a little hover, it tells us we've got 3 over on X and 8 on YouTube. So shout out to all you baby dolls, baby cakes out there. It's time for chat motherfucking shout outs. One of the best parts of the show where we say hello to each and every single one of you guys that is hanging out with us. Starting with Mr. Kenturian54X, who says, "What's up, D-Gens? What's up to you, Mr. Kenturian?"
I need to say something. Kenturian, it's about damn time you were first again. It's been
Yes. So believe it or not, Kenturian's actually doing a lot of farming at nighttime these days. So he's often on his tractor going about and getting the hay riled up. We did a Dungeons and Dragons session last night. He's our DM, and he was only just barely able to make it by the normal time that we go live here at 8 p.m. Eastern is also when we start the Dungeons and Degens and Dragons and everything. So
I love the hardworking Degens in our community.
Oh yeah, he's sitting on that tractor at frickin' like 700 or not 700 degrees, 100 degrees over there in the Serengeti Plains or on the surface of the sun, wherever he's farming his crops and things. But it is good to see Mr. Kenturian in first place. He actually he posted this message at 5:18 p.m. So that was here in Texas. It is 7:08 right now. So he was just about 2 hours early before the show. So it's good to see you, Mr. Kenturian. Glad that we could have you with us. And then we're also joined by Mr. Just Live, Yo Ho, and a bottle of rum. Dude, I've been having motherfucking pirate songs stuck in my head all day. So I'm glad to see that I'm not the only one.
Yo ho, pirate's life for me.
Drink up me hearties, yo ho. I'm drinking some coffee and also some garage beers tonight. My fancy schmancy green screen beers. So that's what I'm sipping on. Are you guys having anything as we go through the news today? Zenith, you are muted, good sir, but I'm going to presume that that's a Budweiser.
Yes, sir. A Bud Heavy, if you will, as the boys we used to call it back in the day. But yeah, still working through the 4th of July surplus.
I just want to say Bud Heavy is actually underrated. It's not a bad beer.
The king of beers, baby.
Did I see you have a high noon before that?
Yep. I like they have like the iced tea versions, so I'm really enjoying those. They're fun I like them when I'm golfing. It's not carbonated at all. It's just cool, refreshing.
I've had a different brand, but I've had those iced teas from another brand. I forget the name of the brand, but they're actually not bad. They're not bad.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Then of course we're also finishing up the morning get up today.
You got everything over there.
We got all of the so we've got the adenosine receptors. They're firing away. We're filling our brains up with caffeine, and we're also drinking the good old drinkity drinks. I've got one of these not beers, Mr. Zenith, that kind of looks like a Budweiser can from a distance. These things are hilarious. I love them. It's just fucking sparkling water, but it comes in a can that looks like Budweiser. So I was walking around the job site the other day drinking these and getting like a couple like second looks from the foreman and from the boss. So that was pretty fun to deal with. Good to see everyone. Oh, and we've had a few more people show up for the chat shout out. So before we get into the news articles and things, here's Mr. Crypto Quick Chat. Shout out to Crypto Quick Chat. He says, "Hi guys, what's up to you, sir? Glad that we could have you." And then Mr. Just Live, I'm not going to read that one. You guys can look at that yourselves. There you go. I don't know what that came from, but that's excellent, broski. Glad that we could have you with us talking about these excellent things. So some of the stuff that we're going to talk about, we're going to start off with tonight is I've got some special technical analysis for you guys. As you can see, you guys all know that the Bitcoin price has been doing some crazy stuff. So I'm just going to cover a little bit of TA right here. So this is where we used to be. We are no longer in this place. We're now starting to go into the upwards trajectory zone, into the sell zone. So as you guys can see, Bitcoin is rising in price. It's done what? over the weekend, it's done a 7,000, not a $7,000 move, but it's done quite a freaking move. I don't know the exact TA stuff. Zenith, do you have anything to cover with the Bitcoin for the last couple of days? Because it's been just doing some weird shit that it normally doesn't.
Sure. Yeah, we're up about 10% pretty much over the last week, but most notably, we are at new all-time highs. I know we may have clickbaited the good people out there with the 120K Bitcoin, but if you want to get technical, we only hit like 119,000 and like 460. But yeah, this is where we're at right now. By my count, we're on day 22 of a cycle. We made new all-time high yesterday. By yesterday, I mean like today, the current day, because remember, everything ticks over when it comes to midnight Greenwich time, or Zulu time, if you will. So we're now on day 22, but yeah, started off with our low here down at 98,000, and we are all the way up to $119,000. So new all-time high for Bitcoin. And if you look at the RSI, we are technically in that oversold area, but this area here, which is above 70, if you can stay above that point for a good chunk of time, you will see those astronomical moves towards the upside. So if we can get more of that, odds are we're going to keep going higher. I think next price targets are probably like 124 is one of the fib levels that people had, and then 125 is obviously just a psychological level as well. And then after, because that's an eighth of $1 million, 125, yeah. And then after that, we're looking at our full top of the bull market targets. I think 154 is still very much in the cards. If we look at the overall 4-year cycle, yes, it is now almost halfway through July. And if you go on the previous cycles, it means that we're probably going to be, if you go on that, the strict 4-year thing, or 3 years and 11 months if you're part of that gang, which I am, that leads us very beginning of October, which means we have the rest of July, we have August, and we have September. So we got 2.5 months to really run. And if you kind of take it into 60-day cycles, that means we pretty much just got 2 more cycles until we hit that top point. But outside of that, yeah, we blasted through this last little resistance that was the previous all-time highs, and now we're sitting well above it. If we can continue to close above it, then that's excellent news. As far as some of the indicators that you might be one to use, moving averages. So my yellow, orange, and red lines here, that's my 20-day, my 50-day, and my 200-day. We are well above all of them, and they are stacked up nicely and starting to spread out, which is obviously goes to show that there is a move towards the upside. So if this continues to spread out more, that means that Bitcoin is going to continue to be pushing higher and higher. So as it stands right now, yeah, the market is doing what we've pretty much been waiting for it to do for about like 3 years at this point.
Yeah, I mean, in the bullish news that's coming out, just from a standpoint from Congress, governments, large corporations, like I don't really see people selling. Before it's really been retail that's driven the price. I don't even feel like retail's in yet, and we're already at all-time highs. So this is just a very unique cycle, which I can't say how many times we've said that, but it is. And I mean, there's no way around that. And I think a little bit later, we'll get into some of the other news coming up that could be even more bullish for the market.
For sure. I do want to pull up my Bitcoin dominance chart just to see what we're looking at here. So Bitcoin dominance has actually dropped over the last couple of weeks there. But if you zoom out even further out, Bitcoin's been on a run for a long, long time. And it looks like this could be one of those points where it starts to go the other way. But pretty much what this means here is that Bitcoin is making its moves, but at the same time, all the other stuff is starting to move more now, which is interesting because we really haven't had that happen a whole lot this 4-year cycle. But when it does happen, we see moves like this one here, the one back in end of 2024. That was a big time for a lot of the altcoins. Altcoins had a good time here as well. But overall, though, it's been largely up and to the right for Bitcoin dominance. So we're just kind of waiting for the dam to break on this one so we can start to see maybe like an altcoin summer, see a lot of the other L1s really take off, like Ethereum, Cardano, Solana. Even XRP's actually had a good couple of days lately. So things are heating up for sure. It is an exciting time, and my prediction still remains, which is that crypto is going to get stupid hot for the next like 3 months pretty much. So just be ready for it.
Here's hoping, man.
Yeah, especially if you haven't been in a bull market before. Most of your gains comes in a very short window. It's like people are expecting this bull market. Oh, it's all my gains little by little. No, it's like usually a few weeks to a few months where it's just like massive rips to the upside. Yeah. I think that this is unique, and I actually personally right now my current thesis is our all-time high will be in 2026. Well, it could potentially be. It could be Q4 this year. I could see that. But I wouldn't be surprised if we made all-time highs in 2026 as sort of a extended cycle, so to speak.
I believe it.
I think
I've seen a lot of the narratives that have been talking about like the cycle or the extended cycle or having a top in early 2026. That stuff makes sense to me, but the model that I'm still operating off of is 4-year cycle. It's the most conservative in my opinion, but I understand all of the arguments saying that because of everything going on, it could be more extended, it could be a little more drawn out, and I totally get that.
So when you look at a 4-year cycle, do you measure from the highs or the lows?
You can do both, actually. What's interesting, Jay is the one that actually showed me this one, which is that if you measure low to low, the 4-year cycle is more precise. But if you go from top to top, it's not quite as precise. And that's where you kind of see that like 3-year and 11-month thing come up. But outside of that, the 4-year cycle, I mean, granted, this is our 4th one. So there haven't been a ton of them, but it still leads to believe in my mind that it's the dominant theory, especially considering all the factors that are hard-coded into it, namely the Bitcoin halving being one of them, and then just the normal business cycle and the monetary cycles that happen as well. They've just lined up well for this kind of stuff. And once we actually break away from it, I'll be more than happy to shift my model. But until that happens, I'm going to assume the trend is going to hold until I get confirmation the trend is broken.
Yeah. So the reason I brought that up is because if you measure from the lows, then we would just need a low in December of 2026, somewhere in the end of 2026, which means that even if we get a high early in 2026, it doesn't mean that the 4-year cycle is necessarily broken if you're measuring from the lows versus the highs is what most people measure from. So I do think that's something interesting to look at and to keep in mind and to balance. So it is something I think is going to be very telling this year. Like after this cycle, if it holds that the lows are on and the highs extended into 2026, then it's like, okay, we really should be measuring from the lows and then, kind of figuring it out as the market, with the information the market gives us from the high point. So
most definitely. I had a somewhat related conversation with some of the Walk the Block guys in our community over there. They're asking about the 60-day cycles and what like creates the 60-day cycles. A, it's market psychology, but B, it's also driven by real world events. And then the 4-year cycle, especially the lows, are also driven by very similar things. Because remember, we didn't see that in the official final low come in until we saw the final nail in the coffin for the FTX collapse. That was the thing that actually caused that $15,700 Bitcoin. That's where we saw that. So while we could go into early 2026 and then have that wherever the low ends up being in 2026, I do believe it's going to be driven by some sort of macro news event that's going to cause it. I think that at this point, with all the narratives going on with traditional finance, I could see that the final nail in the coffin could be like some big players get burned too much and they finally say, like, throw up their hands and say, nope, we're out. And it's like a massive sell-off event or something that causes it. So in 2026, that's the kind of stuff I'm going to be looking for those lows. Additionally, one of the indicators that I really like for finding lows is the MVRV Z-score. That stands for materialized value or market value and realized value. And the Z-score is an actual like ratio that's created. Anytime it dips below 1, that is a very, very good indicator of a low.
Yeah, and the other thing is that's interesting. We haven't even got rate cuts and we're at all-time highs for Bitcoin. Like we're not even printing that much money yet. Like, think about that, right? It's like,
that's true.
I wouldn't have expected us to not cut rates and Bitcoin to be at this price. If you had asked me this 6 months ago, I wouldn't have bought that correlation.
True. Hell, before when we were closing out 2024, we were talking about 2025. We were expecting 4 rate cuts. It's now halfway through July and we haven't seen one.
Well, I don't know if you can see what I have below my name there.
Yeah.
But
cut
rates, Jerome.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, every Western country has cut rates a lot. We're the only ones that haven't. I understand there's some worry around tariffs potentially, but I think the CPI numbers that come out on the 15th are going to be super important. So keep an eye out for that. That is on Tuesday. And if we see like lower than expected, how do you not cut rates? I'm sorry. Like, we're already almost at 2%. He was cutting rates twice before the election, which is weird to me, and now hasn't cut it all this year when every number has, let's be honest, been better than expected. So I understand
it's political in that.
What's that?
I'm inclined to think it's political,
I'm starting to think that it could be. I never actually thought Jerome was political, but it is interesting that he cuts twice before an election when numbers looked really bad, and now he's not cutting at all when numbers look really good. So I also say, and I've been saying this for a long time, Jerome generally errs on the side of caution. Like he took way too long to raise rates, so he's likely going to wait way too long to cut rates. Like I think he just takes the status quo and doesn't want to move too much in one direction. So some people say it's political. Could be. I don't know. I could certainly see that as a possibility, but I also think that it's just how his Fed works right now. And I think the reason that he'll step down isn't because he doesn't want to cut rates. I think it's surrounding, having to spend $2.5 billion to fix up the Fed building. Granted, I know it's an old building, but you can build a new building for $2.5 billion. Like, what are you doing? Also, super bad mismanagement. There's $700 million over budget. So there's a lot, and then there's a lot of talk that he wasn't very honest with Congress in answering why the budget's higher than it was. Why are you going with all of these luxury things when we have rates so high, et cetera, et cetera. So I think those are fair questions. I think those are all fair questions. And if he steps down, I think that'll be the reason. I don't think it has to do with interest rates.
That's fair. I'll try to tackle this real quick from the other side of the coin, which is that if I was Jerome Powell, what would I say to all that criticism? Well, I'd say what Jerome Powell has been saying for a long time. Will, if you don't mind pulling up my screen, I got stuff here for you. So, number one, it's kind of crazy to think about, but the stock market is at all-time highs. Remember, like less than 3 months ago, we had a 25% correction to the downside. We have since made up all of that and more. Additionally, if you look at the unemployment level is still around like 4.1%, and it's been sitting there pretty much since June of last year. On top of that, additionally, inflation is sitting at about 2.4% right now. So it's not exactly where they want to see it, but it's also trending in the direction that they want it to go. So we've had similar lower readings, but we're going to need more lower readings to confirm it. Again, these data points are coming from a lagging side of the house, which is that the information we're going to get next week is from June, and that's for year over year as well. So because of this, I think the argument that Jerome Powell would make for why he has not cut rates is that he doesn't feel the pressure to, due to the economy looking like it's doing well, just fine, unemployment looking like it's sustainable and it's reached a sustainable level. He's also talked about publicly how 4% unemployment is what he believes is a reasonable level of unemployment for a healthy market. Additionally, we have not quite reached that 2% inflation level. I don't know if we're actually going to touch it before we start cutting rates. I highly doubt it. But at the same time, though, I think it's trending in the right direction, but it's not dropping to the level that he wants. So that's what he would say. But I totally understand, which is like, having a rate cut makes sense because we've been operating under these things for so long, and we've gotten to the point where I think that the neutral rate that they're trying to chase has actually dropped a little bit below. And Brendan, like you said, I think he tries to play a little more conservative and goes off data. But again, the data is lagging. So that's why he hasn't been on top of or been very quick with trying to cut rates.
Yeah. So I want to say you make a good point about unemployment, but I also want to say if you look deeper at the underlying numbers behind the unemployment, it doesn't look as good than just the number itself, partially because of how many people have left the job market that they're not even counting in the unemployment rate.
Entirely correct.
Like, for example, I think 130,000 people left the job market in June. So if those numbers are calculated, then it looks much higher unemployment. And so I do see a lot of these underlying things not look as strong. And, obviously data can tell you whatever you want it to tell you. But if you look a little deeper, I do think the unemployment is actually a little weaker than what it shows on the outside.
Agreed. We're no strangers to that argument over here. We've been talking about this for a long time, which is like, we can just throw out the unemployment level, but it doesn't explain how it's calculated. And I think that's very important. And notably, it doesn't take into account people that have been searching for a job longer than 6 months, or discouraged workers who have just left the workforce entirely. Those are big, big numbers to take into consideration instead of just people that are transitioning between jobs and are yet to get one. On top of that, if you look at the actual anecdotal evidence of people trying to find jobs in this current economy, it's very, very difficult. And we see just a big trend of people either having to go through massive numbers of rounds of interviews only to get ghosted, or they get through all of it and they get an absolute lowball offer. So from the jobs market, it's not as peachy as we're making it sound just on the number on the chart that I showed earlier. The real world conditions, I do think, are a little more, I don't know if dire is the correct word, but they're a little harder or harsher than what the numbers might lead you to believe.
Right. Which is why I do think it's time to cut, because
same here. Team rate cut, baby.
If you asked me 2 months ago, I was, on the fence. Now I'm like, yes, it's time to cut because the job market is looking weaker than the numbers actually show. I just looked it up. There's 1.6 million people under that long-term unemployment, which don't get counted in those numbers. And that's another 190,000 got added in June. So you take the 130,000 of the people that left the workforce and the 190,000 that are now considered long-term unemployment. So we're now talking almost 350,000 people that aren't even counted in the numbers. So these are things that are important. And I know that the Fed, in theory, looks at these. And by the way, there's one member of the Fed that thinks it's time to cut rates. So it's not, there is a discussion somehow in there. And the one thing I always wonder, Zenith, and obviously it's not just Jerome. Jerome doesn't get to say, okay, we're cutting rates, right? It's
correct.
It's a group decision of all of the members of the Fed. However, I do think the president moves the people the most. I think he has the most say there, right? So like, if he's like, I think we should cut rates, others are more likely to follow because he is the leader. That being said, I am curious what's being said behind closed doors, because I have to imagine that some of the people there are think it's time to cut rates. I really do. I have to believe that.
I'm going to take a little bit of a different stance here from the two of you guys, and I'm going to quote the famous Joseph Stalin, and try and capture this idea. And it doesn't matter who he's famously quoted as saying, it doesn't matter who does the voting, it matters who counts the votes. And what I'm trying to encompass in that idea is it doesn't matter what the numbers are. It matters who looks at the numbers, who interprets the numbers, and then does something with the numbers. So like we're all agreeing that the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell are doing a bad job of counting the actual numbers. And like Brendan, you've said it many times before that they fudge the way that they measure the data, and then they spin these different stories. They change the timeline in which they look at numbers, so that way they can crunch the number down to make it more palatable for the common public. I think they switched it from like 2 years of data to 1 year, or maybe it was vice versa. I can't remember. Like we talked about this, months and months and months ago. And I'm gonna take the cynical position that the Fed is doing what they're doing on purpose, and I don't think that they're looking at actual data. I don't think they're looking at things that are relevant, like you guys are talking about. The unemployment in America is much worse than reported, and I think that they're just giving us information to feed into their narrative. This is one of the things that was quoted in the Sovereign Individual. I'm pretty sure it was a Sovereign Individual. Shout out to Charlie from Cultivate Crypto when he recommended we read that long ago.
Yep.
But like anybody can take whatever numbers they want from whatever statistics they want and cherry pick the data to reinforce the story that they want to tell. So that's the thing that I think that the Federal Reserve is doing, is they have a set plan of what they're going to do. And so they find the numbers that back it up, or they find the information that backs it up, or they find the campfire story that fits just nicely into the narrative that they want to push. And then they send that out there. So that's my own personal 2 cents. I think it's all on purpose. And, we're sitting here like making these really good logical arguments when they're operating from a position of, I don't know, I don't want to call it malice, but like it's not honest would be my 2 cents.
Yeah. I'll say one other thing. Have you looked at the housing market recently? It's actually the worst market since 2008 when we had the housing collapse. So there's less houses that sold this year than in 2008. There's most houses on the market than there's been since 2008. So I also think that there's a trickle down effect here because we haven't cut rates. That's actually really dangerously close to hurting really important sectors of our country, housing being one of them. Also, it would be nice if our government didn't have to pay as much interest on that ridiculous amount of debt that they're carrying. That's neither here nor there. But I do think that this is really affecting the housing market, and that's going to have a negative impact on the economy, in my opinion.
This is me just pulling out the crystal ball on this one, but the sentiment that I've seen for the housing stuff, I don't have the data, but I know that, yes, it's record low for houses actually being sold. But I think the driving factor is that it's exactly what we're talking about. which is that a lot of people are anticipating rate cuts. So they're asking themselves, why do I want to buy these already elevated price houses at high rates when I can probably just wait a few months and see if I can get a better rate on it? Again, at the same time, you can always refinance and try to get a lower rate if one comes in to a substantial degree to make it worth it for you. But at the same time, though, I think that might be one of those indicators. And also, we got to remember that the housing market has largely exploded in price since 2020, and it has not corrected downwards. If anything, it's only gone flat or still crept up slightly.
Yep. I see you've got a screen share. You want me to pull that up, Zenith?
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go.
By the way, this is the data from the last FOMC we had in June. So we got the fun PDF packet of all their predictions. We're not going to get that this month, unfortunately, as cool as I think they are. But what we're looking at here is this is the dot chart. Each of these dots represents one of the individual people on the FOMC board talking about where they want the rate to be at the midpoint target rate. So this one right here, midpoint 2025, we can see we have a cluster at 4.25 and another cluster at like 3.75. We are still currently at 4.25%. So if you go by the cluster, the average is sitting around 4. So it says that the aggregate of people kind of wants it to go lower. And then if you look further into the future here, we have 2026, 2027, and longer run. Obviously, the goal is to get the rates lower, because what that would mean is that they can ease up on the rates, which would allow hopefully more business growth, people borrowing more money to build more businesses and that kind of stuff. So the desire is there. This is the data from the people making decisions. Again, to Will's point earlier, we don't have access to those, to the behind closed door meetings. We don't know exactly what they're looking at. Yes, they do quote the data that they tell us all the time, but there might also be other factors at play that we just don't know. So I always point to this as the best guess that we have of what they're thinking, because this is what they prepare every like 3 months, pretty much.
I've got I've got a competitor for your data, Zenith, and I'm going to go ahead and pull it up right now. Let's see here.
The money printer go burr.
For those of you guys who are unaware, there is a site called Polymarket. Polymarket is a cryptocurrency betting site where you guys can gamble on the market doing something, and 94% of everybody is gambling that the Fed is not going to make any sort of fucking change. They're not going to cut. 2% gives it a 50% or a 50-point basis cut, and then 5% gives it a 25% or a 25-point cut. So, you know, that's like this is this is where we're sitting on Polymarket. So this is where actual people are putting real life money on the results of what's going to be happening in the future for the Fed. So this is the meeting is in 16 days, 11 hours, 25 minutes, and 39 seconds. So this is what the real life degens are gambling on, and this is the history of the things. We had it looks like 25 basis points was the sentiment around April, early April, and then we've slowly just been creeping on down for that 25 basis point cut, and then just increasing with a whole bunch of no change. So this is kind of amusing to see. Again, this is not like a future telling thing. This is just degens in the real world, gambling on what they think is going to happen. But I always like
money where their mouth is.
I always like checking Polymarket, man, because Polymarket, that's where you see what's like what everyone's looking at and what everyone predicts.
Yeah, as far as the tools to predict this stuff goes, Polymarket's a good one because it's a betting site, meaning that people are actually wagering real money on it. But the other one that I also pull up a lot is the CME Group FedWatch tool, where what they do for that one is actually look at the futures market, which is based on potential interest rates in the future. And that one right now is sitting at 93% for no cut as well. So overall, I think both sides of the groups that are doing this are arriving at a similar conclusion. Although I will say it is crazy to see that people are betting on there's 2% of people in Polymarket that are betting on a double rate cut, a half point cut. And I'm like, okay.
Zenith, it's not, hold on. I actually don't think that's a terrible bet. No, not financial advice, because if Jerome steps down, where does that go? Now we get a huge increase at a chance to get 1% base.
I get
point
that.
cut.
That makes sense.
So there is a little inkling here where you could put a little money on that and probably make a lot if it ended up to hit. So I think that's probably the only people that are betting on that, thinking that maybe he's going to step down.
Fair enough. Tell you what, to bring this back to our original topic we were supposed to be talking about, which is Bitcoin. We've been talking about the Fed rates, which is that we believe that the thesis that a lot of us over here have, which is that when money printing happens or the cost of borrowing money goes up, or the cost of borrowing money goes down, so the amount of borrowed money goes up. That is increasing the money supply. People are looking for places to store this value or invest it, Cryptocurrency is one of those places to do it. So when you have a market that's looking for that kind of stuff, the crypto markets are a way you can satisfy that. And if you're already in the crypto markets like we are, then that is one of those things that can potentially push price up very much. So
Yeah.
Again, we've been talking about this for like years at this point, waiting for rate cuts to pump crypto, and we're still pumping without it. Yeah,
Just 2 more weeks, baby.
So speaking of, can we pull up that video, Will, of Michael Saylor?
Yes, I will do that indeed. So
I don't know if you've seen this one yet, Zenith. It's a good one.
Yeah, can you sort of kind of explain this, because it's going to take me a second to find the share screen thing?
Yeah, so Michael Saylor's obviously been the number one marketer for Bitcoin, and he's done a great job. And Will and I have been saying recently that ETH hasn't really had that bull because of Vitalik ain't it. He's been focused on his Asian ladies recently more than he has about marketing. But I just don't think that Vitalik has the personality to be the Michael Saylor, like just ultra bold. He just doesn't. However, later in the show, we might show somebody that might become the Michael Saylor of Ethereum when it comes to a marketing standpoint and a bullish standpoint. But this one's really good. So let's listen to this first.
Yes. So real quick, let me know, you guys. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear it.
How do you expect the asset to continue a price increase at these levels that we've seen? I mean, can it keep that up over the next 5 years, over the next 10 years? And at what point do we see, winter coming again? Because that's been a permanent fixture of this asset class, right? It's gone from 0 or 1,000 to 20, and then back down to 3 or 4, and then up to 50, and then back down to 15, and now up to 110. Like, when does it drop again?
Winter's not coming back. We're past that. We're past that phase. If Bitcoin's not going to 0, it's going to $1 million. And you have all the evidence you need to determine that, right? The President of the United States has determined he supports Bitcoin. The cabinet supports Bitcoin. Scott Bessent supports Bitcoin. Paul Atkins has shown himself to be an enthusiastic believer of Bitcoin and digital assets. Kentez at CFTC feels the same way. The banks are going to custody Bitcoin. Bitcoin has gotten through its riskiest period. The accounting has been corrected. There's now only 450 Bitcoin a day available for sale by natural sellers. That's the miners. At this level, that works out to about $50 million of Bitcoin available for sale every day. If that $50 million is bought, then the price has got to move up to find any seller that's price sensitive. Now, if you do the math, you'll actually see the Bitcoin treasury companies by themselves are buying the entire natural supply.
Yeah.
BlackRock and the ETFs are buying another measure of that. And we've got nation state actors coming into the space. So I think when Bitcoin rallies, if it surges to 500,000 or $1 million, then maybe we could talk about it crashing down by $200,000 a coin. But at the current price levels, it only takes $50 million to turn the entire drive shaft of the crypto economy one turn. And you've got the Trump media organization announcing $2.5 billion. You've got GameStop announcing $500 million. You've got my company that's raising billions and billions of dollars. So the writing is on the wall. Bitcoin's moving higher.
Had you guys seen that video? What do you think about it?
I've not seen it, but Michael Saylor's bullishness never fails to amuse me. The bear market is not coming back.
I think he brings up a lot of good points. Like, yes, maybe he's a little crazy with his numbers, but I think he brings up a lot of good points. Zenith, you're muted.
Cannot hear you, Zenith.
Thank you, good sir. I'm used to just being completely unmuted when it's just me and Will. But what's interesting here is that Michael Saylor is actually making arguments that a good friend of ours has been making for almost a year and a half at this point, and that would be Axis Alive, saying that he anticipates that there's a good case to suggest that the Bitcoin market is going to start to look more like the gold market, which is just kind of a perpetual up and to the right thing with minimized downsides at certain times. I understand the argument, and he lays out a good argument there, saying, like, look, it's supported by government, it's supported by a large amount of traditional finance institutions, but at the same time, though, it is, I do think that take is just trying to just hand wave away the previous data that we have, which is that traditionally the Bitcoin and crypto markets have like over 80% corrections to the downside every bear market. And granted, even if you operate under the idea that as we move further into the future, we're going to see limited downside and limited upside as well. I think we saw like a 76%. It was, gosh, I might be getting my numbers mixed up. It might be like a 78% correction from the past bull market high towards our most recent bear market low. And then the one before that was like 86 or something. So if you operate on that standpoint of diminishing losses, then we're probably looking at somewhere around like a 65% correction after the bull market highs here. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about, he said it will go to $1 million and you'd see a correction of $200,000 downwards. Well, the napkin math says that's a 20% correction. That is not something that we've traditionally seen in these markets. I understand the argument. I just think it might be overlooking some of the predominant forces that have shown themselves to be very integral to the overall crypto cycles.
So I agree. I will counter a little bit that previous cycles didn't have these large entities buying Bitcoin to hold in perpetuity, right? It was all just degens trying to make as much money they can in a short period of time. So we didn't have this unique nation state strategic reserves. We don't have the ETFs. And look, I think the ETFs will have outflows. I don't buy his thing that the ETFs are just going to keep buying in perpetuity. Those ones I think will be up and down. But I do think that the nation states, I do think that MicroStrategy and other companies using Bitcoin as a treasury asset, that they aren't planning to sell. Now, that doesn't mean they won't, but I don't think they're planning to sell in the near future. They're looking at a 10-year time horizon, 5 to 10-year time horizon. And so they don't have the same 4-year outlook that we are currently looking at. So I do think that we have to take the numbers in the past into consideration, but I also think we have to understand that there's new market movers in play that haven't been there in the past. So like you do have to take a little bit of both of that to get to whatever your situation is going to be. And the hard part is predicting it, right? Like, and we're going to look back and say, okay, yeah, it was clear, right? We'll say that, but it's not clear when you're actually hitting the buy and sell.
Agreed.
You know, you're just using the information that you have that's to the best of your knowledge at that moment. I will also say that I'm like ultra bullish on Bitcoin this cycle. Like I do think again, probably maybe Q1 might be the high. And it might not get an 80% correction, but I would be surprised if it didn't get like a 40% correction, right? Like maybe we have the volatility, or maybe we don't even get that because the people that are in the market, which is now traditional finance, is too afraid of that big of a change. So like the market movers might not allow that to happen. So we'll see, but it will also limit the upside. Someone asked me yesterday, so I was out on a happy hour on Friday. By the way, this is great happy hour in Miami. Half price bottle of wines on the water, $12 sushi rolls, $12 oyster plates. Like it's fantastic. They don't do it on Friday nights. But it's great. We were there, and my friends all know that I'm into crypto, and these people are well off. They have good jobs, make good money, and I've always been telling them, for years, get some skin in the game. And he asked me, he's like, well, why would you be more in on Bitcoin than gold? And I give him 3 reasons. I said, 1, if you look at the market cap of Bitcoin versus gold, if you think that they're similar assets as far as stores of value, then they should have similar market caps. And Bitcoin is 10x less market cap than gold. So we should see a 10x over some period of time, in my opinion, to get Bitcoin to an equal playing field as gold. Now, I don't know if that'll be in the short term or if that'll take a decade to happen, but at some point, I do think that Bitcoin's going to get close to the market cap of gold. So 1 is upside. 2 is the ability to move my assets and take them with me easily, right? It's like I'm talking about large sums of money, right? As we get large sums of money, yeah, you can buy gold, but can you move it? Can you take it with you? Bitcoin is much easier to secure, much easier to move across country lines. And that is something that's important to me. And 3rd, it's the ability to be in a decentralized place where the government now owns some, right? But they don't control how Bitcoin works. They don't control how Bitcoin inflates. They don't have the control over the actual code that Bitcoin is. And so I trust that more than I trust gold because, yes, they bought gold back twice. By the way, I'm not opposed to gold. I'm just saying why I choose that Bitcoin's a better investment for my money right now. than gold. And that was my answer for him.
That's fair. I think Bitcoin and gold do have different fundamentals, but if you are trying to tackle it from the store of value narrative, then you could probably argue yourself into doing a 50-50 split, or honestly just going either way. But yeah, they're very different assets, even though they look like they might be acting similarly on the charts. As far as the market caps go, I understand why gold is still 10x the size of Bitcoin, because one of them is a market that has been around for 16 years, and the other is a material that has been on planet Earth for over a couple million. So I'm not going to knock Bitcoin too hard on that one. But at the same time, though, Bitcoin does have a fundamental different supply than gold does. Yes, there's still an increasing amount of Bitcoin being released into the wild, but it's capped. It's 21 million. There's only ever going to be 21 million, as opposed to gold, which is that humans are pretty good at finding it and finding more of it. And if we get better at technology in the future, we might even be able to synthesize it out of certain other things, like just whether you're doing like straight up like transmutation, or talking about extracting it from like water that has like trace amounts of it. It's a little less. Yeah, or even like asteroids, other planets, that kind of stuff. It's less certain than Bitcoin is, but at the same time, though, gold's been around much, much longer. It is shown to be the thing that humans kind of always tend to gravitate back to. And you had an interesting point there, which is, yes, we have gone off the gold standard twice. And if you include Britain in there, I think they even went off the gold standard for their sterling pound back in it was either World War I or World War II, and then they tried to go back on it, but now I think they're back off of it.
Yeah,
how that works.
Can we bring up Smooth Brain's comment?
Yes.
It's a good one.
I love your ideas. What if the market lead, Bitcoin, ripples out into each dominant ecosystem, i.e. alts, ETH, Sol, Sui, Cardano, etc.? I threw that last one in myself.
Fair enough.
So I will say first, I expect that to happen, to some extent. I don't expect MicroStrategy to change and start buying ETH, right? But I do think at some point that Bitcoin and the amount of money you make is like, okay, we're going to roll these into alts. But I do think that we have to wait for interest rates to come down. You need a more risk-on asset market for people to feel comfortable getting into those altcoins. And so I think that we've had a little bit less of an altcoin season than we expected, because we didn't expect rates to be this high for this long. And so I think once we start cutting rates, I think risk-on assets will get more interesting for people to roll money into. So I do expect that to happen. It just might be a little bit longer than we originally anticipated. Well, it's already longer than we originally anticipated. But I do think that ETH and a couple other coins are really like coiled to blow at some point.
I agree. And by the way, one of the this is actually something I learned from Tracker. One of the things that he uses to track whether or not we're really in that risk on ecosystem is the Russell 2000s. It is a collection of lower market cap stock tickers that really run whenever we are in those kind of environments. So if you want to go look at it, we had a very similar thing, which is that it almost looks like it had a double top back in 2021, and it had a recent high in November of 2024. We're not quite back up to that November high, but it's definitely made a big correction after all the tariff runoffs stopped, and then we finally gone back up that way. As far as the question from Smooth Brain here is that what if the market lead ripples out into each dominant ecosystem? Yes, we believe that is the theory that is most likely, that we've seen play out in the past, and we anticipate it happening in the future. In the cycle, we always expect Bitcoin to run first. I don't know if we expected Bitcoin to run first this long and as hard as it has. That's been a little more unique to this cycle, thanks, in my opinion, largely due to the ETFs and traditional finance really only getting into Bitcoin and not much else. But as far as when we see the ripples start moving out, I think it's going to be sharp, and it's going to be quick, and it's going to be aggressive. It's something that we've seen traditionally, and I expect it to happen again. That's why we always hop on here and talk about like, potential altcoin summer and whatnot, because that's when we're in anticipation of that kind of effect actually happening, which is people say that Bitcoin's running up, time to maybe rotate some of those holdings and try to get the gains where they have not been made yet, and use the capital from areas where they already made those gains. But yeah, good chance that all those things, as long as they have good fundamentals and they don't have any massive flaws, and they have some good market fit, I imagine that there's going to be a time in the sun for them. It's not going to be all of them. They're not going to all be the same either, but a good amount of them, yeah, I believe so. If they're worth their salt, good chance.
I'm also super bullish on ETH because of all these companies creating stable coins, right? Like they're all almost everything's built on Ethereum still. Like people don't realize that. I think even if they realize it, they don't really think about it. They don't realize like how vast like things are built on ETH versus any other chain, like 75%, almost 75%.
It's not just that, but they also use the Ethereum virtual machine for a lot of the other chains as well. It's not that it's just the Ethereum network, but it's the Ethereum technology.
Oh, he's got a clarification. So what if Bitcoin lost its volatility and other ecosystems take the reins? That's what he was implying.
Oh.
You know what's interesting and like something that I think sort of kind of, I don't know if this is necessarily relevant to that clarification, but like just the general principle of when people get rich, they tend to use their money to buy other things. And so if people are rich in Bitcoin, they're going to use the Bitcoin wealth probably to buy more things. That would be my guesstimation. When somebody makes a lot of money in their business, they don't just like keep the money in dollars. They go out and they buy more business building assets. They go and buy other businesses. They go and buy property. They go and buy ice cream. They go and spend their money on other things. When people get a whole bunch of wealth, they tend to like put it into other stuff, you know, whether it's hedonistic or idealistic, whether it's an asset, a different type of asset or a different type of liability. People generally tend to spread their wealth around. So if somebody gets super wealthy in Bitcoin and like denominated in dollars, they're probably going to push it out into the other ecosystems, into Solana, into Ethereum.
Will, are you making the argument that people get money so they spend the money, or are you making the more like Alex Hormozy argument of like only get rich once, which is like make your big wins and then diversify to protect from downside?
I'm making a little bit of both arguments. I'm just saying that when people get wealthy, they tend to do stuff with the wealth. They don't just like Scrooge McDuck sit on it, unless they're, you know, like Satoshi Nakamoto, who, by the way, according to recent data, and this is from Crypto News, just became the 11th richest person with $129 billion worth of Bitcoin. Now, again, you know, nobody knows who Satoshi is. Like, it could be Len Sassman, it could be Hal Finney, it could be we know that it's everybody except for Craig Wright. Craig Wright's the only person that we know definitively is not Satoshi. So like whoever that person is the wealthiest person in the world. But most people, when they get wealthy, they spend their money on other things. They you know, when the United States gets wealthy, they spend the money on weapons of war. They spend the money on roads. They spend the money on, you know, fucking whatever the U.S. spends its money on. They send it over to Israel, or they put it into some some bread building programs over in South Africa or something. I don't fucking know. When people get wealthy, they tend to diversify the wealth out, or they tend to go and spend it places. So generally, what happens after the market gets crazy Bitcoin wealthy and the top starts being no longer the top, people are like, oh shit, Bitcoin starts going down, or it's time for me to take this wealth and do something with it. Whether it's like, you know, I'm gonna turn it into real estate, or I'm gonna go and start my own business. Then they'll turn the Bitcoin into cash, and they'll go like create real life money printers that way, or they'll turn the Bitcoin into stable coins on Ethereum, and then they'll put it into some yield farming thing. Like, people tend to do stuff with the wealth when the wealth grows. So that's just the general point that I was making.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that there's a possibility where Bitcoin becomes less volatile, but the rest of the crypto market still follows that sort of 4-year, much larger volatility, you know, ups and downs. I could see that happening at some point.
If Bitcoin becomes more stable in the future, I think we're going to start to see maybe some different market forces at play, which is that we're at a point now in history where it's never been easier to launch your own token, whether it's a meme coin or an actual token with some fundamentals behind it. That one's a little more difficult to do instead of just hopping on pump.fun or pump.tires to launch a meme coin. But I think that if the Bitcoin market stabilizes, what it shows is that there's less speculation and everything is more baked in already. So at that point, I could really see the argument that what runs in the crypto space are new projects based on, again, good technical fundamentals and are going to be adopted for an actual purpose. You will probably see you'll always see like the meme coins pump and run and dump and go to zero and rug and all that stuff, because that's what they do. You see similar stuff like even today in like the penny stock market and whatnot, which is that speculators are really just playing around with the money pools as opposed to building good projects to, you know, sell stocks in order for the business to accrue capital to then expand the business, that kind of stuff. So you're going to see those two things. You're going to have like quality projects or value projects, we'll call them. And then you'll have just like pure market psychology plays and like the market competition and like meme coins and lower cap stuff. So that might be kind of like the only remaining thing if you actually see Bitcoin really solidify its volatility. But the other thing is that if Bitcoin is solidified and having less volatility, it means that there's a large scale adoption. I think Bitcoin is still going to run into the issues, which is that the network is actually not used for anything. It is used to buy and hold Bitcoin, as opposed to the other networks, which are actually trying to build and sell stuff, or actually build projects that do things. So the other ones, I could see them still maybe holding on to that 4-year cycle, expanding it out to maybe like a 6 or an 8-year cycle later in the future. But if Bitcoin gets rid of its volatility, that will have big effects throughout the entire market, largely due to Hart's law, or the rising tide that raises all ships. Because you got to remember, everything's slightly correlated thanks to decentralized finance and the balancing pools that we have in that.
I like it. I like it. And it's good mentioning the Hart's Law. People need to be reminded of that. Everything is correlated to everything else. And it's an interesting world when you realize that, like, human life is correlated to oil, is correlated to the amount of food that's available, is correlated to energy, is like everything can be like some version of a chart or something like that. Real quick, before we hop into the next topic, I'm going to do a hard transition here. We're going to do a round of chat motherfucking shout outs, so that way we can get through some of the folks who have been so kind as to join us while we're doing our thing. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Ethereum and what's coming up next with that. So going to all of our starred chats, we've got Mr. Frank White hopped in about 12 minutes after we went live with the show. Shout out to Frank White and his kick-ass pulsestart.me. Shout out to Frank White. We love you, broski. You've got a great website over there. For those of you guys that are new to Pulse Chain and you want to find some cool stuff, go to PLSTART, pulsestart.me, and you guys can find a whole bunch of really cool resources that will take you all around the Pulse Chain ecosystem. Even the DGen Roundtable is in the community aspect over there. So shout out to Mr. Frank White. Bang bang DGen gang. We're also joined by my good friend Josh, Mr. Slide 180, who says, good stuff, gang. Pulse to you too. Good sir, Mr. Josh. Glad that we could have you with us. We're also joined by Mr. Farmer J, or Mr. Brown, aka Farmer J. Good to see you, Farmer J. He says 2 more weeks. You're absolutely right, bro. We're just always waiting 2 weeks for the next 2 weeks for the next 2 weeks. Shout out to everybody in the Pulse Chain system. We're also joined by Miss Amber Simon. Miss Amber Simon says hello. Hello to you too, Miss Amber Simon. Good to have you with us today. Shout out to Amber. She's been documenting her amazing fitness journey over in the DGen Roundtable fitness chat. If y'all are interested in joining the DGen Roundtable, you can scan that little QR code down there. Talk about your fitness, talk about memes, talk about ladies, liquor, and leverage, talk about guns. We do all sorts of cool things over
Hole
the
punchers.
DGen Roundtable. Oh yeah, it's a whole bunch of dangerous stuff. And speaking of the lovely ladies we have joining us tonight, we're also joined with Tam Tam, who says hello, my lovelies. Hello to you too, Tam Tam. Shout out to the #1 cheerleader in the Pulse Chain and Hex ecosystem in the crypto space in general. Good to have you with us tonight. We also got a real life friend of mine, Mr. Moonpilled Rational Optics, who says, "What's up, gentlemen? What's up to you too, Mr. Moonpilled? You've had some good questions, and I appreciate some of the chats that you've been putting in. Some great thoughts and great insights." Man, talking about IRL friends, I've got another IRL friend, Mr. Moonmutt. Good to see you all tonight. We are bullish. Welcome, Mr. Moonmutt.
Oh,
I gotta
be bullish for sure.
Oh yeah, we're bullish, baby. I wonder.
Here we go, pump it up. Got to pump it up. Here you go, pump
we
it
have
up.
not hit 120 yet, but it would be really cool if it hit during stream. Who knows? I'm not promising.
It's close.
I know I'm doing the old man thing and be like, oh, wow, we've been waiting for this for so long. But like, we've been waiting for this moment for a long time now. Granted, it's been like 2-3 years since we started streaming at this point. And we're like, yeah, the bull market, it's coming eventually. It's coming soon. The dragons will be here soon, I swear. And it's like, oh, shoot, we're actually there now. Like, we're like any day now, like pretty much.
120, and then it's all over. Just kidding. And then we go to 121, or we go to 119. Those are the directions that it goes. It's either up or down, guys. You're either buying, holding, or you're selling and wishing. So there you go.
Will, no, you're forgetting the most important third option, which makes everyone mad, which is you just go sideways.
Oh yeah, you just go sideways. Yeah, so it's either going to go up, down, or sideways. So there you go. Or it's going to reverse in time and just disappear entirely. Who the hell knows? But
do we get a Michael Saylor post tomorrow that MicroStrategy bought more Bitcoin?
Oh man, I would
not doubt it.
They love to
Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor's an interesting character to watch about like what people are saying about him on the Twitter sphere. Because if you go back like a month or two ago, people were like, "Oh man, I bet Michael Saylor's sweating right now. He bought Bitcoin at 98,000. It's like looking like it's gonna go down to like past 80." And then I was seeing tweets over this last week. All the wallet watchers are like, Michael Saylor is sitting on $28 billion with a B dollars in unrealized gains. It's like, yeah, I think he's going to be okay either way. He doesn't care.
Yeah, it's going to be all right. Well, I forgot what their average buy is. That would be quite interesting to see.
I just pulled up a screen share really quickly. So if you want to just real 1 second
and add yours. Oh my goodness, look at that.
So all those dots are MicroStrategy buys. Look at how many buys have been recent at these tops. He's not planning to sell anytime soon. This shows you that he's literally going to hold this until it hits $1 million or more. He might never sell his Bitcoin. So like that's a difference in this market that we haven't had in the past. And like look at he has as many buys here in this range than all of the other buys previously.
I would love it if the dots were sized to the ratio of dollars that were put in. That would be super useful, because you'd probably see a whole bunch of big ass dots right there and a whole bunch of little dots when the price is low, just like kind of reflecting the sentiment of the market at the time.
That's true. So a little fun fact for you here. According to bitbo.io, MicroStrategy owns 597,000 Bitcoins. As of July 8th, 2025, they have an average purchase price of $66,384 per Bitcoin, with a total cost of $33.1 billion spent.
Wow. Fucking good shit, Mr. Michael Saylor. All right, guys, we got some more chat shout outs. We got to shut up. Shout out to Mr. Tanyo8187 saying, "What's up, fam? What's up, Tanyo? Haven't seen you before. Welcome to the stream. Glad that we can have you with us tonight." I don't know. Is Tanyo? It looks like he's got an NFT character up there. I don't think it's a CryptoPunks, but it looks like some sort of NFT. So glad that we can have you with us tonight, Mr. or Mrs. Tanyo. Welcome to the stream. We're also joined by Taylor. Good to see you again, Mr. or Mrs. Taylor. Welcome to the stream, broski. I haven't seen you around in a while, so glad that we can have you back with us. And then, as everyone knows, we've been shouting out Smooth Brain. I love your ideas. What if the market lead ripples out into each dominant ecosystem? So there we go. Good to see you, Mr. Smooth Brain. Excellent question, by the way.
I understand the question now. He said, what if the market lead ripples out into the dominant system? So Bitcoin stops being the lead and the lead becomes other things. Got it.
That could be it. We also got our favorite moon muscle, Mr. Pepe, Chad Donnerschwanz. Hello, fellow braced crypto bros. Hello to you too, Mr. Chad Donnerschwanz. Chad Donnerschwanz. Welcome, broski. Fucking love it. We also joined by Mr. Ock Jockey, or M Rock Jockey. Welcome, Mr. M Rock Jockey. He gives us the wave. We give you a wave right back too, sir. We also got Mr. Hexagon Lost in Asia. Gents, welcome to you, Mr. Hexagon Lost in Asia. Glad we could have you with us tonight. 120? I don't know. Maybe it'll happen, broski. Maybe it will happen. And then also Mr. Smooth Brain says, I think I've got to jump on your Wednesday show. Absolutely, broski.
Do it.
Hop on
Wednesday.
Whiskey Wednesday.
I'll be there.
We share that StreamYard link. Anybody is welcome. We're always happy to have people hop in and join us. And it's freaking cool. Also, we're updated by Mr. Tanyo. It is a People's NFT. So I don't know what that is, but fucking sweet, bro. Glad that we can have you with us. So we're gonna do a hop on over into let's see, what's the world that we're going to? We're gonna go to the do we want to do the CNBC one, Brendan, or is it the midnight one?
No, let's do the CNBC. So
okay.
I had mentioned earlier that one of the things Ethereum has been lacking recently is, strong marketing and sort of that bullish leader. Vitalik's just not his personality. And he's been focused on some Asian chicks recently and less about marketing, in my opinion. We need someone to be the Michael Saylor of Ethereum. And we may actually be getting someone to take that lead down. And I think this is super bullish for Ethereum, especially because this company is, and they're not the only one, they're just the largest, but they're taking that MicroStrategy Bitcoin treasury approach and using it for ETH. And he's ultra bullish on ETH. He speaks really well. He's bald, unlike Michael Saylor. So hopefully that's not a drawback from a marketing standpoint. But also, this is a marketing company. He literally works for a marketing company. So who better to be the Ethereum head lead than someone who literally majors in marketing? Take it away.
We love it. And I just got to say, people without hair, they're more aerodynamic, so they're able to move faster. That's all that I got. Let's hear from Mr. Joe Lubin.
Former Chair Gensler made it really unattractive.
Can you start from the beginning?
Use tokens.
From the beginning. Okay. My bad. I thought this was the 1 minute one.
Ethereum catching the attention of major financial institutions, which are increasingly building on the blockchain and processing about 24 million transactions daily. The rise of tokenization and stablecoin hype also helping Ethereum-linked stocks. Joining us now to discuss the crypto market is Ethereum co-founder Joe Lubin. Joe, welcome. We were talking about this in the break. What's going on with Ether? If you take a look at the ratio, Ether to BTC ratio, it's been pretty much coming down for the past few years. Why is that? Why do you think there's that discrepancy?
So Bitcoin has had a very clear narrative, and it's got a value proposition that people can understand and get behind. It's had Michael Saylor doing a really good job growing the brand and buying lots of Bitcoin. Ethereum, so Bitcoin's value proposition is now. Ethereum's value proposition has been perceived to be in the future. We've been building scalable infrastructure, layers of enabling infrastructure for about a decade, anticipating that all the activity of the internet and the web will move to Web 3. And Web 3 is really the natural evolution of the web protocols, sort of a re-decentralization of the World Wide Web. So Ethereum is scalable enough, affordable enough, legal enough in the United States. It's very usable right now, but we haven't had the applications and we haven't had the consumer end users and the enterprise end users because former Chair Gensler made it really unattractive to use tokens or issue tokens or build applications in our ecosystem. So that is all behind us.
This was the you wanted to pause at the 1 minute 30 mark, Brendan, or should we keep going?
Yeah, we can skip to let's skip to like 3:30 and take it from there.
Okay, skipping to 3:30.
That's
Zynga. And also, I just want to say, like, I didn't realize that Joe Lubin was a co-founder of Ethereum. So that's a pretty cool thing that he's the Sharplink chairman. So here we go.
Is this to demonstrate, to sort of tell that story that you think isn't being told or hasn't told?
Yeah. It's about telling the Ethereum story. What does Wall Street pay attention to? It pays attention to being able to make money. What are we going to demonstrate? Because decentralization is the direction of travel for the world, we believe. We believe that we're going to see Ether and Bitcoin continue to rise over the next years and decades as we paradigm shift to more and more decentralization. So that's going to put a bid under these tokens, and the anticipation of us and Saylor accumulating more and more consistently, both in large chunks as well as just selling ATM. We're able to acquire tens of millions of dollars in Ether a day via these ATM sales, and so we're just going to stay the course and continue to grow the concentration of Ether per fully diluted share.
I will say, I agree. Oh, we're not going to watch an ad. Bullshit. Get out of here. Stop sharing. I hate ads. I hate ads so much. But like that's pretty fucking cool, man. The Ethereum co-founder, the chairman of frickin' Sharplink, and I agree he was a little bit camera shy, but generally developers and businessmen are not always good like marketers and camera personalities. It's cool when they can be. But I do agree, Mr. Just Live. He does see a little bit camera shy, but what he's talking about is really freaking cool. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, and look, we haven't had someone take the lead and show, like he said, hey, look, what talks? Making money. So if he can prove that this Ethereum strategic reserve strategy, selling ATM to buy more Ethereum, is profitable. Imagine Ethereum hits like 9-10K this year. He's going to look like a genius, or next year, or, who knows? Not only that, but yeah, it's just like it starts the adoption process, right? More people are eyes on it. More people are focused on it because Bitcoin has been the narrative and that's been the focus. And the more you get people talking about Ethereum, the more people get to looking into it. Like all of these things are going to be a strong narrative. And so it's huge, I think, from a standpoint of making money. And it's not lost on me that now's a good time. Ethereum's been down for a while. and it's been kind of almost hated on so far this cycle. And some people have written it off. I've heard many people, but it's to me, it's been coiling, and it's really at this point where at some point I think it's going to be a very, very strong mover this cycle. I know it's its third cycle, but I do think it's going to be very strong.
It makes sense to me. This is something that we've talked about with our good friend C3 Works over from the Actuator Protocol. He used to be a traditional finance guy for like 20 plus years. One of the things he was talking about when he talked about launching his what's the name? Oh, it's Actuator, right? Is that the one with the time staking, like
yes.
the Hex bond
Actuator
market?
Protocol.
Yeah. The reason that they developed that kind of a tool is because they wanted to give financial professionals more tools in the arsenal to work with. But the other point that it really harps on is that if you're in the traditional finance space, specifically if you're like an investor of some kind or a money manager, you are looking to make money, but there's another very important factor, which is minimizing downside risk. I think that if you want to make money on Ethereum, it's entirely possible right now, especially through all the decentralized finance protocols or just straight up staking ETH. That kind of stuff exists, but I think that the downside risk for Ethereum has been a little too large so far to get people into it. And I think that if traditional finance is trying to get into crypto, they want to minimize risk. The way they've done that is by pretty much exclusively sticking to Bitcoin. If you want to diversify and look into those other spaces to make money, I think, again, Ethereum is a great option for it. Whether you're just looking at the fundamental token itself, or you're looking at the network, all the projects on it, or you're looking to get more towards that DeFi side of the house where you can actually start staking and earning passive rewards just for having money, because that's kind of what traditional finance does, is they get a lot of money and they use the money to make more money.
It is it is difficult to make money and do things in the Bitcoin space. Bitcoin's the fucking shout out to Sami. Bitcoin is the pet rock of the cryptocurrency world. You can't do a motherfucking thing with it. Yeah, you can create ordinals, but it's slow and it clogs up the network and they suck. Yeah, you can you can basically send and receive. That's all that you can do on the Bitcoin network. On Ethereum, you can create all sorts of crazy cool calculations. You can run your own code. You can set up if-then scenarios. You could do voting. You could do like you guys remember when we read the Bitcoin white paper, or whoever was watching when we read the Bitcoin and the Ethereum white papers a couple book clubs ago. Like this, all the stuff that you could do on Ethereum is freaking crazy and freaking nuts. Like there's stuff that doesn't even have to do with like currency transfer, just like the voting and decentralized organization and being able to like create a digital ID of sorts, or sign things, or create if-then scenarios. Like all of this stuff is super cool, and you can't do that on the Bitcoin network. You can do it on the Ethereum. So, I would love to see Ethereum become a major market player, and equal to or shoot past Bitcoin one of these days in terms of use case and cool story things. Zenith, I see you've got something pulled up. You have a thought here, broski. You want to share?
Yes, sir, I do. So
right.
The other half, or this is a bit of a narrative that more of the Walk the Block team has been really focusing on, that not as much I have, but I think it's undeniable, which is that Ethereum has been under short selling pressure for a long time, and it's a substantial amount of short selling pressure. These are people that are using options contracts to short Ethereum pretty much. And what this does is it does suppress the price. I think that we've seen that as possibly one of the reasons why Ethereum has been underperforming this cycle, especially considering it was at like $4,200 back in, March of 2024. So this could be a thing that scares away traditional finance from Ethereum. But again, if the mindset flips and they're looking at Ethereum as a way to be the next Bitcoin from their standpoint of trying to be the thing that they can make money on by doing the long-term buy and hold strategies, it would make sense that now might be a decent time to get in there. If you have all this short selling pressure, you've suppressed the price as much as possible, and it's probably as low as it's going to go.
Well, something for folks to think about as well is the world shorted over 2 times the amount of the circulating supply of gold and kept the gold price suppressed for 20 fucking years. So it is possible for shorts to have this real life negative price pressure on things. And it is possible for big market makers, if they really want to do it for a long period of time. Like for those of you guys that don't know how shorts work, it's essentially like you are agreeing to sell an item at a set price or something like that. And if you're shorting more than the supply of the thing, then it doesn't it doesn't technically work and it can't technically work, but like it still keeps the price pressure down. And it could do that for a long period of time. And I'm kind of explaining this like peanut brain because I don't really understand how it entirely works. I just know that people enter into contracts where they can get a guaranteed like sell of a thing for a certain price, and that keeps it artificially suppresses positive growth and things of that nature. So
yeah, there's two mechanisms at work here. The first mechanism is that the options contract is basically you enter into a contract with someone else to either buy or sell a certain asset at a specified price now, but you're going to execute it in the future. The reason that you do this is you either anticipate price is going to go up or it's going to go down. In the case of the short, here's the second mechanic, which is I pretty much go to Will. Will has an Ethereum. I say, hey, Will, can I borrow this Ethereum from you? And Will says, yeah, sure. And I say, cool. I borrow it. I immediately sell it. And then I anticipate the price is going to be lower in like a week or two. And then if it is, I rebuy the asset at the lower price, give it back to Will with the small fee that I paid for the contract that I entered into him with for the borrowing. But the difference between what I sold it for and then the price going down that I rebought it for, that's my profit. That's short selling.
Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't work, then
there's one other thing that you have to think about as well, because people could be short selling but also buying spot. So why would people do that? They would do that because if you go to like Hyperliquid, the funding rate for Ethereum is currently 13%. So if you're shorting and then you're buying spot, you're essentially making like 13% on your money. So there is, which by the way, creates more demand and pushes the price up. So there is this potential that this is done for a specific reason. It is actually, it could be a bullish narrative and not a bearish narrative. So don't always just take shorts. We always look at shorts as always being negative. But in some cases, in specific times, people can make plays like that. And in Hyperliquid having a 13% funding rate for ETH, that's interesting. And that's something that needs to be considered. What do you think about that, Zenith?
Does the funding rate mean like if you want to borrow 1 ETH from me in order to short it, then you have to pay me 13%? Is that what that means?
Yes, essentially you're getting 13% by
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not super familiar with the Hyperliquid platform in particular, but the scenario of having short selling is a potential bullish option is possible because remember, if markets are player versus player, just because you're shorting it doesn't mean that someone else can come in, inject a lot of capital for the pure purpose of screwing you over. Because when you enter into these contracts, you are obligated to pretty much return the thing. So if you borrowed it, already sold it, and then the price increases, that is a loss. That is effectively what happened back. It's called a short squeeze. It's where you're squeezing the value out of the shorts and turning them negative. It's what we saw back in 2021 with the whole GameStop narrative. People realized that traditional finance had been short selling GameStop for like literal years at that point, and it had effectively driven the price down probably like 80% of what it should have been if you're operating under the business, the traditional way of evaluating businesses based off their profit and earnings ratio and all the gains and losses and stuff like that. And what people did is they came in, they bought up a ton of it, squeezed the market, people lost money. So stuff like that can absolutely happen. Just because we're talking about short selling doesn't mean it's necessarily a bearish thing, but if you are short selling by nature, you are inherently adding some sort of sell pressure to the whatever the asset is. So there will be that temporary downside pressure. It doesn't have to be forever, but it will be there.
Yeah. I don't disagree. But I don't know. I'm just really bullish on ETH right now. I really am.
Yeah.
Brother, I've been bullish on ETH for 2 years, and I feel like I get proven wrong every time I get a little more bullish on it. I'm like, oh, wow, we flipped positive.
I was sort of on the other side because back like my first CMC course, like Charlie and Miguel were like, ETH's going to flip Bitcoin this cycle. And I was like, absolutely zero chance. It won't even flip it next cycle. It probably will never flip it. So I've always been of that mind thought. When people were super bullish on ETH, I was still like, I like ETH, bullish on it. But I was like, okay, let's temper expectations here a little bit. I'm now just seeing ETH so depressed where it has a lot of utility and people are using it and building on it that it's like what you're talking about. Like GameStop is so depressed and then they like the short squeeze and it rockets up. I think ETH's been building there and Tanya did have a good point. Shorts can also be used by whales to swing trade without destroying MM pools. So that's a good point as well. But yeah, I'm more bullish on ETH, I think, than I've ever been, which is interesting.
Hey, I'm hopeful as well. We're sitting at just a hair under $3,000. I'm very happy to see it break above that 2850 resistance level that it had for a long time there. So if the Bitcoin move continues towards the upside, I imagine that Ethereum is going to start to regain some of those higher levels, and hopefully we'll start building some more support up there and really reverse the trend and start going to the upside.
I really want to look at the ETH BTC dominance from when those statements were being made about ETH flipping Bitcoin, because if I remember correctly, that's pretty close to like where the ratio kind of topped out and just has been plummeting since then. So like you take that positive sentiment from then when it was at the top of its chart, and you look at it now when it's like making new lows all the fucking time. Like I think those are pretty good. And Zenith talking about like being bullish on it for 2 years and now being bearish on it. It's like, aha, is that the bottom signal? Is that is this the thing that we're all looking for? So just something that isn't worth zero weight of knowledge. I think it's worth thinking about is generally when we feel bad about something, it's like, aha, we could be near the bottom. And generally when we feel really good about something, it's like we could be near the top. So I don't
I'm
know.
not bearish on it per se. I'm just trying to adjust my expectations, because if you asked me probably like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I would have told you that my targets for Ethereum this cycle would have been like $12,000, $15,000. I think I've revised that down. I think hitting $9,000 is reasonable. But at the same time, though, I'm thinking like based on everything going on here, I just don't see the energy going into it. So the ability to pump it to those higher levels, I just think is missing right now. Unless I get new information, in which case I'm more than happy to adjust my projections accordingly.
Well, if Sharplink Gaming gets more people to jump into this ETH treasury, it could make a big difference.
That could be one of them, yeah.
Or nation states start to now, okay, maybe, hey, we shouldn't just have Bitcoin. Let's also get Ethereum in our strategic reserves. Like that's a possibility.
And we've got China talking about creating CBDCs based on the yen. There's something like 20 or 50 countries talking about making CBDCs. And it's like, what are they going to make their own chain? Are they going to use Ethereum? Are they going to use Binance? Are they going to use Tron? Are they going to use Arbitrum? Like, where are these CBDCs going to happen? Like, are they going to be paying gas fees? Are they going to be doing their own little China chain? Like, what's going to be happening with that? My guess is it'll either be a copy of Ethereum or it'll be Pulse Chain for China's CBDC or something.
I think that is a point for the conversation about the bills in Congress. That's later on in the show. But to be the cynic one here, I don't think they're going to use blockchain technology. I think they have no incentive to. If you're doing a CBDC, if anything, you want more centralized control because it's yours.
Yes.
So why would you ever do that?
I'm being a little bit silly here, Zenith. So you're absolutely right. They're not going to. Nobody's going to be using Ethereum to do. But like, I would look forward to, if Ethereum catches on, look forward to big corporations and look forward to businesses and look forward to like people that actually go out and make things actually happen in the world. Folks that are out there solving problems. Governments don't solve problems. Governments create more problems and seize power in the meantime while pretending to solve a problem. That's like the general gist of the thing. But the people that are actually out there doing stuff could be using Ethereum, could be using Bitcoin, could be using Binance Smart Chain, could be using Tron, whatever the hell, they could be using all this stuff. And real quick, shout out to Paul, talking about JP Morgan famously paid $120 million in fines from the CFTC after short selling silver for nearly 20 years, profiting near $60 billion. So they paid 1/60th of the profit they made as like, hey, legal fines. Like, I was speeding 400 miles an hour, and so I pay, the $200 speeding fine, and I go to jail for maybe 6 months or something like that. And it's like, yeah, totally worth the fucking winning the race and getting, getting a big amount of money for the rest of my life, and whatever the hell. So
how about I got another one for you. It's like the person that bet 10,000 that there's going to be a streaker in the Super Bowl, and then he was a streaker.
Hey. There you go. Hey, what is it like? The best way to make the top is the best way to know the top is to make it. So there you guys go. And speaking of people that are making things, we've got a really cool protocol over here. The Midnight Foundation is what we're going to launch into next. So, Mr. Brendan, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my share screen for this.
No, do you mind if I share?
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Go ahead and pull up what you got there, broski. And but for the folks at home,
This is big.
This is some cool stuff. Here we go.
So I haven't heard many people talk about the midnight airdrop. This is a huge airdrop. Some people might not even be familiar with midnight or what it's for or how it works. But it's going to be mostly airdropped. 50% of it will be airdropped to Cardano users. 20% will are Cardano holders. 20% will be airdropped to Bitcoin holders, and then the rest of the 30% will be split between Ripple, Ethereum, Binance, Avalanche, and Brave. I believe those are the other ones. So anyone that was holding those in their private wallets as of June 11th, when the snapshot was taken, will be viable to claim your midnight airdrop. So that's interesting. So even ETH holders are going to be able to claim midnight tokens. So what is midnight? Are you guys familiar with it at all?
I've not heard it. What's the elevator pitch?
Okay, so this is interesting because I don't know of many other places that have done this, but essentially it's a privacy blockchain. So it's a blockchain that's run on Cardano, kind of like same, but it's uses zero knowledge proofs or ZKPs, which allows users to transact like through smart contracts privately, which shields sensitive data like your transaction amounts or even the contract details, while still being verified by blockchain and by the Cardano ecosystem. So it's a privacy chain that allows you to make transactions without showing as much of your transaction details as you do the blockchain. Like one of the things with blockchain is like everyone can see everything that you do, and there's an issue to that, right? There's a good thing, and there's also a negative, privacy implications. So Midnight is trying to solve that issue. So yes, you can use it for Cardano, but interestingly, it will also be connected to other networks. So these other networks that are getting airdrops, it will be connected there. And I don't know everything about it just yet, but you will be able to use. You'll be able to connect other blockchains to be able to use Midnight. So it is interesting. I think that anyone that isn't familiar with it or hasn't started looking into it should do that. There are some other mechanisms in there. There's another token called Dust. So Night's the actual airdrop. And then I'll just read this here. Cardano's Midnight network is making waves with its massive 24 billion Night token airdrop, dubbed the Glacier Drop. The privacy-focused sidechain is set to reward crypto holders across 8 major blockchains, including Cardano, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and more. I mentioned the other ones already. If you're wondering how to snag your share of Night tokens, this guide breaks it down. So if you want, I will put this in the chat for everybody to look at and to do their research. But I think it's important that if you held ETH in a private wallet on June 11th, if you hold Cardano, I still hold Cardano. I did sell off some of it because of things that I was not super happy about, but I still believe that they're doing great things for the future. Just a slow building chain. And this sort of decentralized nature and privacy focus is what I've always liked about Cardano. They just haven't built it fast enough for a lot of people. So again, June 11th was the date of the snapshot. At some point in July, they're going to be opening up the opportunity for you to claim your tokens. I haven't heard that it's actually live yet, but it will be at some point this month, which is why I want to talk about it, because there's a maximum time you have to claim your tokens, which is 60 days from when it launches. So just read a couple other things here. Midnight aims to be a DeFi powerhouse, blending Cardano's scalability with privacy features like shielded transactions. Night tokens power the network, generating Dust. That's the other token that I was talking about. A non-transferable resource that fuels transactions without tying fees to a token price or volatility. So you use Dust to transact, but you can't buy it and sell it. So it's kind of a neutral token. And if you don't use your Dust, then it also starts to decay. So you start to lose your Dust if you're not an active participant in the Midnight blockchain, which is interesting. You know, they have some very interesting things here. So native token holders on these, like I said, minimum, and here's the eligibility criteria: minimum holding of at least $100 worth of the native token, XRP, Ether, Bitcoin, etc. Your wallet must not be unsanctioned, and then it must be self-custodied. Now, I do want to note. Now, even if you don't self-custody it, say you have it on Coinbase, Coinbase can choose to go accept claim the airdrop and then give it to their holders. Now, this is not unprecedented. They've done that in the past, so it's possible that you will still get an airdrop from these centralized exchanges, but you're not guaranteed it, right? And this is why self-custody is so important, because you don't own the decision making. Like, they have to go and do it for you and then send you the tokens, which again they've done in the past, and I hope that they do it. And because it's such a large airdrop by a main blockchain, I definitely could see that happening. But again, if you don't own your wallet, you don't own your tokens. So here again, this is what I was saying earlier: 50% will be given to Cardano users, 20% to Bitcoin, and then the remaining 30% will be mixed between the rest of these chains. So what does that mean? So 24 billion Knight tokens, 12 billion Cardano. So I think there were 14.7 billion addresses, which means that for Cardano users, you'll get about 0.82 Cardano per ADA. So if you hold 10,000 Cardano tokens, ADA tokens, you'll get somewhere in the vicinity of 8,200 Knight tokens. So what does that mean? Like, what's the price gonna be? Well, it depends on what this launches at. Charles Hoskin says that he thinks that Midnight's going to be over a 10 billion valuation at launch. So if that were the case, that means that your airdrop, if you hold 10,000 ADA tokens, would be in the hundreds of dollars, that's a pretty nice airdrop in my opinion. But you know, it could be somewhere in the low end in the 20s of $20 to $40 range, or in the high end, it could be like the $2,000 range if you hold 10,000 ADA tokens. So I think this is a very significant airdrop. I think it is a very significant opportunity, even if you have other chains, like free money here. So one thing that they do recommend is, one, create a new Cardano address right here. Create a new unused Cardano address for receiving Knight tokens. We always talk about condom wallets. We always talk about anytime there's an airdrop, you know, be safe. Create a new wallet and send it to that wallet. Another reason is because you're going to be able to see who's claimed the transactions and what wallet addresses. So you might not want your main wallet addresses out there for everybody to see. So create a new wallet before you claim your tokens. And you have to claim them within 60% of the time that so it says right here, like July 2025. We don't have a date yet. But the other interesting thing is you don't just get your airdrop and then you can dump it on the market. It's actually thawed. So they call this thawed. So gradually over a year, you'll get in 4 drops, 25% of your tokens. So you'll get 25% within the first 3 months, and then 25% every quarter after that, up to a year. So it is a window that you are able to get these tokens given to you, but you do have to claim them within 60 days. If you don't claim them within 60 days, there is a time during the third phase of the airdrop that you'll be able to claim a fraction of what you didn't claim. But why? This is why I'm telling you about it. This is why we're here telling you about it, so you can claim your tokens within the 60 days. So all of this other stuff, I don't really want to get into the weeds about like how Dust is used, and how they're kind of unique in the ecosystem. And we haven't seen a lot of places use those, but they also have a nice frequently asked questions here. And yeah, so I don't want to do all the advertisers, but I haven't heard, for some reason, I haven't heard a lot of people talking about it. And again, because I don't think a lot of people that are outside of Cardano are paying attention, but this is a game-changing airdrop, and it's a potentially game-changing protocol that's launching. And I think that everybody needs to be aware of it. And if it's only for the money that you can get for free, then you need to be aware of it. But I think that it's actually trying to create a unique aspect that hasn't really been done large scale for crypto before, in a sense for privacy. So I think that's sort of just the overall gist of it. I know that a lot of people aren't familiar. Zenith, Will, what do you think? Were you guys familiar with this? Is it interesting to you?
I'm unfamiliar with it, but it is interesting. I mean, airdrops are pretty much free money, so take advantage whenever you can, pretty much. But also, please be careful with interacting with airdrops, because people are going to airdrop you a lot of crap into your wallet, hoping that you'll touch it in a way to get you into some not so great protocols or tools that will ultimately drain your wallet. So be very careful, verify all your stuff. The interesting part for this for me is that we've been seeing a call for privacy networks and privacy tokens for a long time. Granted, we've had a handful of them that have had their day in the sun. I'm looking at Monero, WorldCoin, Immutable, Zcash, that kind of stuff. Privacy coins are very cool in the sense that it gives you privacy in a world where there is no privacy. The pro of being on blockchain is that everything's on blockchain and that you can see everything going on. When it comes to the world of finance and trying to do business, that's not a great thing. Like, imagine if any given day, all of your employees at your business were able to see what you paid everyone else at any given moment. That might start some fights and might cause some problems with your business. Additionally, it's the idea that, like, if you are big on the government surveillance stuff, well, this is one way to combat it. Notably, though, the governments have not been very thrilled about these kind of things. Notably, mixers are the big tool that they've gone after for a long, long time. And they're still very much in a gray area right now. So personally, I don't even touch them at all because I don't know where they technically stand. I hope that they might be in a little more favorable light in the near future. But the unfortunate thing is that whenever there is crypto crime that happens, money usually gets funded through the mixers. So as a bit of a stopgap measure, people, or by people, I mean governments, have pretty much just made them like off limits. And if you ever touch that protocol, your wallet is now marked and tracked and potentially going to be sanctioned. So I do think that having a privacy network do well is something I'm very interested in, not just from like a personal moral sentiment, but I also think that that is one of the markets that has not really come to fruition in the crypto sphere. So if we could see one really take off, that would be fantastic. And I think that there's a lot of untapped potential there. This is going to require a little more research on my part, but at the very front, at least, it looks like it could be a competent project. And if it's blocked by, was it Charles Hodgkinson, the Cardano guy? Yeah, it's a good person to vouch for it.
I don't have any thoughts other than I like privacy and I like the fact that people are building things. That's the big thing that stood out to me the most about this whole project, is that they're looking to solve the problem, the privacy problem, which I think is going to be very, very big as we move closer and closer and closer to a more security focused state. I've been seeing a lot of things online require, like, hey, who are you? Sign up, give us an email, give us your phone number, show us a picture of your ID, tell us your favorite birthstone, or like, what's the maiden name of your mother, whatever. Like, people are collecting data and people are harvesting data, and in this day and age of AI and other such similar technology, another thing that I've been seeing, guys, is as I travel around the states, so you guys know I'm on the interstates often, I'm seeing more and more and more 30-foot tall, 40-foot tall towers with little cameras on them. And, maybe they're traffic cameras, maybe they're government cameras. Who the fuck knows what these cameras are? But they're collecting, traffic information at the very least, and they're scanning license plates, or they're doing whatever. The more information is being collected, the more of your value is being given to other people. And so whatever you can do to protect anonymity, to protect your data, other such things, if that's something that's valuable to you, I think is super awesome and super cool. So that's what stands out to me a lot with this. And I like that they're doing a free airdrop. There will probably be a huge sell-off as a result of this airdrop. So,
that's usually what happens. Yes.
It's I'm not going to say it's guaranteed, because nothing is guaranteed, but almost every time there is something given away for free, the people that get the thing for free are like, oh, free money, cash in. And that has the result of having negative externalities on the price. So don't be surprised if that sort of thing happens. If you get this airdrop and the price is one thing and you're like, oh, cool, and you don't sell it, and then the price is lower later on. Like, that is something that is very common. I'm not saying it's going to do that, but it is a very, very, very common thing. So keep that in mind. If you want to get more of it, then that might be an opportunity for you to get more. And maybe everyone that gets it just holds on to it, because, like Brendan was saying, nobody knows that they have it. So who knows? Maybe you guys could be the first one to hit the sell button, or maybe you can buy it early. So
yeah. So, and also keep in mind that, like I said, it is a tiered drop, right? Like, you get 25% within 90 days, and then 25% for the next 3 quarters after that. So you won't get all your airdrop for up to a year. which is interesting. And I think it's good, right? They're trying to lessen that sell pressure, at least in over time. So it's not all happen at once, which I think is smart. But yeah, I think it's super interesting. I do think privacy is important. Again, like one of the problems why we don't like CBDCs is because the government can see everything, right? Like right now, that's still a partial of an issue. And luckily, mixers are now back to being legal for the United States. And yeah, I thought that's important because a lot of people haven't heard about it yet. And I'm still reading up on it and everything about Midnight. But this has been a big news in the Cardano community for a long time. So it's been like a big thing that people have been talking about for a long time now. So that's actually happening, that's actually coming out, that other chains, because Cardano allows for interoperability with other chains, that's also very cool. So like you can now build smart contracts, connect Bitcoin, and Midnight's going to be able to allow other chains to have that same privacy through that interoperability. So it's cool. Definitely read up on it, like anything, right? Like do your research. Not financial advice, anything here, but again, always put it into a new wallet. Don't use your old wallets for airdrops. And also, like Zenith said, everyone's gonna be able to see what wallets got this airdrop. So what's they gonna do? They're gonna also airdrop you scam tokens that look very like the original token. So always verify that that is the address for that token before you interact with it at all.
Yes,
It's
sir.
good that you say this because there's probably going to be some people that are watching us this is their first time interacting with some sort of well, maybe if you have tokens in your wallet, it's probably not your first time interacting with cryptocurrency, but it could be your first time interacting with an airdrop. It could be your first time, going out and trying a new thing. So keep an eye out for fake websites. Keep an eye out for people reaching out to you. Whenever people reach out to you, they're trying to extract something from you. Whenever you reach out to somebody else, you're trying to, strike up a conversation. You're trying to extract like attention and value and other things. So like, if people are going in, if pretty girls on Twitter and Telegram are DMing you and hopping into your inbox, no, they're not interested. All right, you can push that out the window. It's probably a scammer.
They might not even be women.
It might not even be women. It's probably some dude in Filipino who's getting paid $6 an hour to type really cool things on the internet. That's what happens with most OnlyFans pages. That's the stuff that happens with most with most like company customer support stuff. It's some other dude in a not third world country. It's some other person in a lower economic status than the West where we live, where it's like they're not going to hire people for $3 an hour to type at people and answer phone calls all day long. It's probably going to be some gentlemen, or some ladies in another country that are trying to extract money from you. So be wary of DMs, be wary of people reaching out, especially at this time in the market, and keep a weathered eye on the horizon. Zenith, you had a thought you wanted to say.
Yeah, I was going to say, as much as they try to tell you, no, there are not hot local singles in your area that are wanting to meet you. That's not how that works. But more importantly, if you are actually interested in like seeing what we're talking about here, all this stuff we're talking about, odds are it's not actually going to show up in your MetaMask or anything if that's what you use, because MetaMask actually only shows you the tokens that you have added to it. If you want to see this stuff, go on Etherscan, type in your wallet address, and I would bet that there are some tokens in there that you don't recognize, some weird contract things going on. Someone had the thing saying that if there is a token in your wallet that says go to this website, Hexglen, thank you. He says ignore a coin that says airdrop or go to this website. Correct. If you go on Etherscan and you see these things that are in your wallet, they're actually there. But at the same time, it is a phishing attempt. It is trying to get you to go somewhere else to click on something else. Or it could just be some broke boy trying to get his project off the ground. So in which case, I say best of luck, sir. But unfortunately, you are getting put into the spam box as well.
It's very similar to ads that you might see on the less than flattering corners of the internet that say, hey, you can increase certain parts of your body by an exponential amount if you just click on this link. It's like, no, you can't. Don't fucking do it. Like, don't click on things on the internet, because the internet, it's a dangerous place, boys and girls. It's a world full of bear traps, and occasionally you'll find a piece of cheese just lying on the floor. So like, don't go like wandering around aimlessly clicking on things is the long and short of it. Any final thoughts on the Midnight stuff, Mr. Brennan? Anything else you wanted to cover? Did you cover the tweet at all? You're also muted right now, broski, so I can't hear you.
I was sorry. Honestly, I'm just happy to bring it to our communities because I don't think a lot of people have been talking about it. I might do a full breakdown on the Midnight drop because it does affect ETH, and I know a lot of people hold ETH. that watch us, Bitcoin as well. So I might do a full breakdown here in the next week or two. But I think that this was at least a good overview and give people a place to start and go do their own research.
Hell yeah, bro.
Yes.
I like
some top-notch alpha right there, brought to you by the DGen Roundtable. But in this case, Brendan, look at this, man.
Yes.
Send all the kudos there. If you don't want your night tokens, you can always just send them to him. He'll take them.
Hey, there you go. Mr. Kenturian can confirm that those pills don't work. And Hex Glenn, I would like to see an update. So yeah, I think Hex Glenn is probably talking about the midnight, not about the gas station pills. So there you guys go. If I send you an ETH, then you'll send back too. Yes, guys, also don't fall for that. And also don't fall for theoretical live streams of Elon Musk giving away 3 Bitcoin or something. That's not fucking happening. Don't click on them, right? Don't even watch them.
Yes, there's a Nigerian prince born every day.
Yes, many Nigerian princes. All right, so that covers the midnight thing. If you guys don't have anything else you want to cover for tonight, I've got about 20 headlines.
I got one more. One more, good sir. Can you bring up the Axios article?
Axios article. Yeah.
I can also screen share if you need.
Oh, there it is. I found it. Okay. Yeah, go ahead and pull up your screen share because I'm trying to click around here and figure the producing stuff. Boom.
All righty. I teased it on book club, but this next week is going to be a big one. So we have Crypto Week coming up. Previously, before this, Congress was very much entrenched with trying to get through Trump's big, beautiful bill, which it didn't have any crypto stuff in it for us, really. There are some crypto adjacent things that happened, which is primarily that the SEC lost $200 million in funding and the CFTC gained $30 million in funding themselves. Why that might be important, you ask, is because Crypto Week is coming up. We have 3 bills that are coming through. We have the Genius Act, the Clarity Act, and the Anti-CBDC Surveillance Act. So from Axios, House Crypto Week could change how Americans save money. A few years ago, crypto was mostly a pariah in the financial services industry. Now, urging of the first crypto president, Congress is on the verge of remaking American finance to embrace it. Why it matters, Crypto Week could change everything from how you make payments to how you invest. It would also grant further legitimacy to an industry that has made the president and his family sudden billions of dollars. So, if we go over to our good friend Grok here, here's what we're looking at. The Genius Act. This one has already been passed by the Senate. It is going to the House. It is actually going to a House floor vote. So if it is passed without much delay, then there's a good chance that it could arrive on the president's desk by July 18th before the end of the week. So that is good news. That is the one regulating stablecoins and will potentially give people more ability to use stablecoins in projects. Like Grox tells us, companies like Walmart and Amazon are reportedly already exploring their own stablecoins. So this is the most guaranteed sort of legislation that's going through. The other one is the Clarity Act. Bipartisan bill aimed at providing clarity for digital assets by defining oversight roles for the SEC and the CFTC. So there you go. Remember what I said earlier. SEC lost money. CFTC got money through the most recent bill. What this one actually does is this is a definition about who oversees what. So if this act passes, the structure is actually going to redefine some of the roles of the SEC and the CFTC. If this happens, the SEC will be in charge of any cryptocurrency that is deemed a security. If it is not a security, then it goes to the CFTC. So that is going to be for anything deemed a commodity. Fun fact, it looks like Bitcoin and Ethereum are already deemed commodities. So that's the 2 largest crypto assets that are already being wrenched out of the SEC's hands and put into hopefully some more friendly territory, or at least not being shoehorned into old laws that don't necessarily apply to crypto. The last piece of legislation that is going to be talked about, Clarity Act, real quick. The Clarity Act still requires Senate approval. So this one is not going to be as urgent or could come up on the timeline as soon as the Genius. Genius is the most pressing and the one that could be passed most likely. Clarity requires a little more, and it's going to have to go to the Senate for approval. And then lastly, we have the Anti-CBDC Surveillance Act. This bill, reintroduced by the House Majority Whip Tom Emmer, aims to permanently block the Federal Reserve from issuing a central bank digital currency. Citing privacy concerns, it prohibits the Fed from testing, developing, or issuing a CBDC, and it restricts its use in monetary policy. The House Financial Services Committee passed it in April, and it's expected to be debated during Crypto Week with a companion bill in the Senate. So, Genius Act most likely, Clarity Act second most likely. This one's going to require a little more work. Additionally, there is the House Ways and Means Committee will hold a hearing on crypto taxation, exploring tax policy frameworks for digital assets. There's no specific legislation on this one, but the discussions may influence future proposals, such as one from Senator Cynthia Loomis. And speaking of which, gentlemen, let me know if you can hear this.
It is now, and that's why we want to discuss this digital asset tax legislation, because there's a whole lot of parts of this. But again, it's smart stuff because, listen, the more it grows, we want to make sure people are protected with taxes. You want to talk about the most important parts of this?
I do. There's a part that would prevent the double taxation of digital assets. Right now, they're taxed when they're identified, and they're taxed again when they're sold. We don't do that with things like gold and cattle. We tax them when they're sold. And so we need to change that for digital assets. We're also sponsoring legislation that would create a de minimis amount that people could spend. When we're using Bitcoin as a means of exchange, we want to have a de minimis amount that can be used and spent without being subject to taxation. That amount would be about $5,000 per year. So those are a couple of the main provisions.
There you go. That is the possible tax proposal there. So overall, though, big week coming up because this is the stuff that's actually going through. We've been talking about this for a long time, talking about the potential legislation and all the different ideas. So far, the only crypto things we have on the books are actual executive orders that were issued back in January. Gosh, that feels like forever ago already. But yes, that is what we have on the books. This would be the next thing that actually comes on the books. So again, Trump's beautiful bill didn't have any crypto stuff. This is the crypto stuff, so pay attention to it.
There's one more thing I want to throw in while we're talking about the government, and that is the U.S. Treasury has removed the crypto brokers reporting rules, and that's from a recent Bloomberg article. So that's just a headline. So I have not dug into that at all, but that's another great thing coming out of the White House and Washington D.C. and all of that stuff. So Treasury's not White House, but you guys know what I'm talking about. From Big Daddy government. One more thing.
And I'll say, I think it was last year, the head of the CFTC,
Communities Futures Trading Commission.
Yes, thank you. My brain just had a fart there for a second, but he said that he thinks about 80% of all cryptocurrencies should be considered commodities. So it also makes sense that if they're moving that direction, the CFTC needs more funding because there's a large market that they're going to have to keep an eye out for. And also 80%, that's awesome. That's really good if that's commodities, because that means we are going up higher.
Yes, it's not just that, but it also is less scrutiny, because we've been dunking on Gary Gensler for well over 2 years at this point, and Gary's finally gone, and we're finally getting some updated guidance on how to actually treat crypto and hopefully treat it fairly and properly instead of just trying to shove it into old boxes for securities laws when it doesn't fit.
Boom, baby.
Yep. Big week.
So to give you a little preview of what you're probably going to see from the people that are not proponents of this kind of stuff is they're probably going to be citing the fact that Trump is involved in the there's a crypto fund. What is it called? It's like the World Liberty Finance or something.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yep. Probably going to hear a lot about how these are being passed for people who already have crypto and government. And they're just trying to make themselves rich, or that blocking the CBDC is non-progressive and blocking future technology. And there's all these other countries that are doing it. So why shouldn't we? Well, that one is kind of overlooking the argument, which is that CBDCs are like a nightmare and a poison to, I think, any country that adopts them. It's cool that other
probably don't want to.
Correct. You know how China has a social credit score? Well, one of the mechanisms that they can actually enforce that is through CBDCs, aka a digital currency where the government has the admin controls and can control how you have your money, what you can spend your money on, or if you even get it in the first place. So that kind of stuff is not exactly conducive to a free market economy and good monetary system or a good money supply as well. So personal opinion here, very much against CBDCs. I think it is a pivotal moment that you gotta make sure that it never happens, because once it happens, it's going to be pretty much impossible to walk it back without total collapse.
Boom. There you go. No CBDCs. I don't think that there's going to be like an actual CBDC here in America, but I think that there's things that already exist that are going to be just basically put into that position already and used as more of like a private CBDC than a public CBDC. So that's my own 2 cents. But we'll find out when we find out, folks.
That's true. Will, we talked about this on a previous show. You mentioned this previously. On this one, you were talking about, our CBDC is going to use blockchain. Well, we actually kind of have an answer that you brought up previously, which is that what's the World Economic Foundation? Was it the WEF that was telling countries to kick Bitcoin off their
that was
asset
the
sheet?
IMF. That was the
IMF.
International
Thank you. There it
Monetary
is.
Fund. They were the ones that gave money to El Salvador under the condition that Bitcoin can no longer be a national currency. They've done a similar thing, I think, with Bahrain. I'm not positive, but the IMF is going around like, I don't want to say stonewalling. All right. And again, guys, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just an asshole on the internet who looks at things. But the IMF is going around basically like strong arming countries and being like, hey, we're not going to lend you money unless you don't use you don't use Bitcoin and you don't use this money to buy Bitcoin or whatever the hell. Because imagine how funny that would be if the IMF lends money to El Salvador and they take every single last penny that the IMF gives them and spends it on Bitcoin. That'd be fucking hilarious. But they're like, hey, we'll give you this loan under these extenuating circumstances, and first you must kiss the ring and polish my shoes. So,
and I will say,
El Salvador, they did.
But El Salvador is still buying Bitcoin, so they didn't
buying Bitcoin.
What?
It's true.
They're still buying Bitcoin. So they didn't back down from the pressure that the IMF had put on them. So I do want to give them credit there.
Yeah, point that the reason that I bring these up in the same breath is that I think it's important for people to understand you got to look beyond the headlines. You can make logical and good, structured arguments about the pros and cons of things, but understand the fight for what it is. There are power struggles and power games that go on beyond just the medium headlines. That is one of the ways that you can affect the populace, is try to throw out the headlines to influence them, but understand that the games are being played at a larger scale. So please, when it comes to this stuff, especially like replacing an entire monetary currency, these are very, very high level chess moves going on, and understand them for what they are. Don't get wrapped up in kind of just the bullshit that gets pushed out to you on a daily basis.
Yep. And there you go. And gentlemen, this has been a fantastic show. Final thoughts on anything? I'm going to do one more round of chat shoutouts, and then we'll go around the horn and talk about things to go. What you got, Z?
I have one final screen share for you here.
Okie dokie, let's see it.
Coming to us from our friend Crypto T.
Oh my God.
Bitcoin can't keep running like this. Bitcoin. Never stop. Stay hard.
Those of you guys that are on audio or replaying, or you don't know who this is David Goggins, a famous Navy SEAL who's just like, stay hard, motherfucker. Who's going to carry the boats? You better, I'm always training. I'm always running. So shout out to David Goggins. Bitcoin can't keep running. And then Bitcoin is actually just David Goggins that never fucking stops running. So
true. I got two more here for you. Mentioned this at the beginning of the show. There is speculation that Jerome Powell might be stepping down. I don't believe it, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure Telegram gave me a notification about Trump talking about Jerome Powell as we were live. And then on top of that, just a reminder that Bitcoin is up 200% since Jim Cramer said this. It says Bitcoin, it's a tough own. Unlikely that Bitcoin will find its footing. January 22nd, 2024.
Yep. What's totally rich is there's something. Oh man, where is it? I have it here in my oh man, Jim Cramer says that JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon was wrong about Bitcoin. So that happened quite recently as well too. So Jim Cramer is quite the gentleman in the Bitcoin space. There's actually a really old TV show where Jim Cramer played himself when they were talking about Bitcoin in a court of law thing, and I forgot what TV show it was, but it was really fun. He's been in the space for a long time, so shout out to Jim Cramer. Part of me thinks that he's like an anti-hero, and he does it on purpose, and part of me is like, who the hell is this guy, and how is he getting away with all this? So maybe he just reads the scripts that are given to him.
Yeah,
but anyway,
Jim Cramer has been around for a hot minute, though. If you remember, he was actually in the original Iron Man movie.
Oh, he what? Wait.
Yeah. So when Tony Stark gets captured by the group over there, builds the suit, escapes, come back, has the press conference, says I'm shutting down the weapons production. They have a scene where he's sitting in his house watching TV with Pepper, and it's Jim Cramer on TV saying, Stark Industries, sell. That's a weapons company that doesn't make weapons.
Oh, that's hilarious, bro. Fucking, that's great. I love that they did that. What a cool little thing. But speaking of people that are saying things and saying cool things, we got Moonpilled Rational Optics. Explain to me who Tanyo8187 is actually a Top G Moon Gang member. So shout out to you, Tanyo8187. Good to see another Moon Ganger in the house.
Yo.
We're also joined by Mr. Funkmaster Hex, the Trailer Park Boys Julian of Hexico. Good to see you, ladies and gentlemen, or ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening to you too, sir, Mr. Funkmaster Hex. We're also joined by the obese Spark Driver. We love our Sparkies, our electricians. Glad that we can have you with us too. Also, Arif5665 lets us know that he is a genius. And then he proceeds to go, and I think he was repeating what Farmer Jay was typing. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. But good to see you, Mr. Arif. 5665. I hope you're not a bot, and if you are, then you tricked me into reading your comment. So most excellent.
Well, if he's repeating what Farmer is saying, then it sounds like he too will be enjoying some pigeon soup over in Hex Tent City.
Yep, there you go. We're gonna have lots of pigeon soup. Shout out to Paul Sachs again. We shouted out his earlier comment about them shorting silver. He says, "Cheers, fam. We're all gonna make it. Wog me, or we're gonna make it." There you go. I agree, Mr. Paul Sachs. We are going to make it indeed. Another good real-life friend of mine. We've got Just Live doubling down on that silver. Silver was purposefully suppressed to make it cheap for industry in my conspiracy theorist mind. So, hey, that could be the case, good sir. That could very well easily be the case. And, we'll see. Or I guess we'll never see. There's a lot of things in history that we'll just never know about. But I like the campfire story. It's very good. And then we're also joined by Mr. Hex Glenn. Shout out to Hex Glenn. If you, like you saying, ignore a coin that says airdrop or go to this website. Abso-fucking-lutely, bro.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't fucking click it. There you guys go. All right. So shout out to all the new people that are in our chats. There's a lot of new folks with us tonight. Freaking fantastic and freaking awesome. Glad that we can have you guys with us. It's been a real fucking fun show. Mr. Zenith, where can the folks find you, and what have you got going on in the near future, amigo?
Folks, you can find me over on X and Instagram at ZenithDI. Outside of that, though, I'm going to be continue on doing what I do. We are back from vacation, so we're going to be hitting this hard. Next week is going to be a busy week for me with all the Crypto Week stuff going on. I will be reading the bills. I'll be keeping track of everything going on there and updating. So odds are we're going to have an update for you probably next show as well to see what actually shook out from this Crypto Week. Although if you're part of the camp that says nothing ever happens or nothing changes, well, there's a decent chance that might be the unfortunate truth. Outside of that, though, Will, I believe we have a book club coming up on Friday. What book are we covering?
We're going to be covering Never Split the Difference, a book about negotiations and the art of speaking to people by Chris Voss. It's a fantastic book, one of my most favoriteest books ever. I don't know why I haven't put it on book club up until now, but Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss is the book we're going to be covering on Friday's book club. So
we had an excellent book club on Friday talking about Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell. We powered through the 24-hour audiobook, but I'll tell you this much: if you can get through that book and you can go get through our 2-hour lecture over there, then we'll find a way to mail you an associate's degree from DGen-U in macroeconomics, because that was a thick read, but a very, very, very good one.
And shout out to all of you guys that are keeping up with all of our books on book club. Any of you guys that are reading all these books with us, like, you're getting a hell of an education. We've gone through 66 books so far, so or 66 episodes. I don't know how many books. There's like 50 something. But
that's true.
Like, if you're reading this stuff, you're getting a crazy good education. And if you're just listening to us talk about it, then you're still getting a pretty decent, okay education.
You're probably getting the cliff notes at least, and interesting conversation with a lot of segues and rabbit holes that we go down. But outside of that, the final thing going on, Brendan, I understand there's a thing happening July 14th and 15th over on the RH Max channel. What could that possibly be?
Yes, there is a Pulse X conference happening tomorrow and Tuesday, and I will be participating in that. I will be on Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time, and I'll have a little talk that I will be giving on why Pulse X is superior to Uniswap. So that'll be nice, and I'm excited about that. Look, I've said this in the past. Some people are like, "Oh, what's the point of a conference?" But think about when you're trying to bring people, into the ecosystem. It really brings validity, and this is information that they can now learn about and learn from. We're not, this isn't just for people that are in the ecosystem. This is for people that we're trying to onboard right into the ecosystem as well. So a lot of good information for people that will hopefully be onboarded through this massive marketing campaign that Richard Hart is putting out there.
Sure. Additionally, the point of the conference is from the viewer's perspective, for your value proposition, is that we do a pretty good job of making friends and bringing them on our channel and going on their channel. But odds are you're going to find somebody that you've never heard of talking about something interesting, and you might even watch a few other panels, and you might find other interesting people that you want to go watch more of. It's a very vibrant community. There is a ton of us out there, and go check out their stuff. And odds are we will all like cross-pollinate at some point. This is just one of the best ways that we can do that.
It's crazy, man. I've been in the Pulse chain and Hex space for probably 4 years now, and I would say I probably know only about 10 or 20% of the streams that are even out there. So it's just like the number of people that you meet at these conferences and the number of the amount of like networking that you get. Like, do as much of the stuff as possible if you want to learn the most people and answer the most questions. What you got, Brendan?
Should also say 6 p.m. tomorrow night. I'm also for day one. I will also be on a panel discussing a few different topics. So.
Hell yeah, broski. What other than that, Brendan? What have you got going on, and where can folks find you?
Nothing. Find me in the Telegram, find me on X, and find me on these streams.
There you go. Brendan, the anonymous_bean. There you go. For the folks that want to find me anywhere, you guys can go to will.pls.fyi. That's where all of my socials are linked. I'll go ahead and drop that in the channel. Like Zenith said, for the DGen Roundtable, you guys can check us out. I don't know if y'all can read that. I know that I can't read it because I have it very small on my screen, but it says youtube.com/@DGen Roundtable. We are live every 8 p.m. Eastern. Wednesday, we talk to guests. Friday, we do book club. And then Sunday, we cover the weekly news in crypto. So it's going to be a good week next week because we're going to get all of this legislation and all of this cool, fun stuff going on up in the government. So that's where you guys can find me. That's where you guys can find us here on the DGen Roundtable. Join our Telegram at t.me/DRT join now. We appreciate each and every single one of you guys watching us. And that's all that I got. So with that being said, I want to thank all of you for spending your valuable time with us here on the DGen Roundtable. As Agent Jay often says, we know that time is your most valuable asset, and we appreciate you spending each and every moment that you do right here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Will Stevenson, but more importantly, you have been watching the DGen Roundtable. Mr. Producer, that's me. Go ahead and get that trigger finger ready because it's time to remind all the folks at home to remember to DGen responsibly.